Hello everyone, this is Oscar de las Salas, and today we're at the E-Center right in Uptown Phoenix. We will be attending a half-day summit about the future of sustainability in Arizona, a collaboration between Gensler and Green Living magazine. We're going to be listening to a number of city leaders and business leaders about what is going to happen in Arizona in terms of sustainability. Reporting for WTSM TV, this is Oscar de las Salas. Happy Earth Day.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Green Living's and Gensler's Earth Day Summit. It's our first annual for 2022. We're so excited being with you today. We're here in Arizona, and we have a list of politicians, movers and shakers that are looking at Arizona and figuring out what's the best way to save our planet. And I'm your host, Carol Kahn with Green Living magazine, and joining me now is Reeves Taylor with Gensler. So talk to me about this, because whenever, like in architecture, there's titles that you have, and sometimes I always wonder, what does that mean exactly, especially in the sustainability world?
So what's interesting, sustainability by its nature has been around as long as human beings have. To sustain is to keep going, right? And sustainability over the last, say, 25 years has been about how do we do less bad? And we've been doing it long enough now that we have to actually think beyond sustainability. We need to think about regeneration. We use the word resilience, being challenged now by some of the climate changes and so forth. So it's interesting. There's a lot of phrases all around green or ecological. And fundamentally it means we need to really design not only with human beings' well-being in mind, but the whole ecosystem well-being in mind, and think about the long term. Again, the great peoples, the indigenous leaders of this part of the world, they thought many generations ahead, and that's really what sustainability needs to be about.
So how have you seen it changed in the last, even 10 years, 5 years, to now? How have you seen it progressively change in your world?
So I came to kind of the sustainability path or journey about not quite 30 years ago when I jumped to the client side. I became a client of architects. And I recognized that not only did we seem to build for the short term, get it done, move on to the next project, leaving the people who would live in the building or operate the building or own the building to kind of make it work. And so kind of selectively, we started to recognize that to do sustainable design at any scale needs an entire team, from the owner and the user, the population, to the designer and the builder and so forth. It really is what's called an integrated process. That was kind of the first aha. Then the second one not too long ago was, when we build, it needs to work. And we need to think about how it works over time. Life cycle. It's called life cycle assessment or full cost accounting. But what's most recently happened, not only has the climate conversation become front and center, that the built environment, in fact, is, if not the key, it's among the key to tackle both long-term challenges with our burning of fossil fuels to operate and make things, and that making things is also kind of a late-breaking element, which is the stuff that surrounds us is a big deal. But also the conversation is starting to become very important to investors and insurers, because they're also recognizing we need to design in a sustainable way that can withstand the challenges we're facing now, from wildfires and heat or drought or hurricanes that are coming more regularly. So design is now looking at durability, maintainability, maybe even reusing more than new. So there's this whole new thinking of design doesn't mean brand new, that looks great for a few minutes. We really have to think about life cycle, the quality of the human experience for our diverse communities. And so we're even thinking more about how would people use it now and in the future. But most importantly, it's going to be an asset for the community and obviously the owner for many, many years. How do we do that better?
Now, you travel around the world. Recently, you just were in
Saudi Arabia. That was a long trip, yeah.
And so how are you finding things around the world? How are things changing there?
It used to be, and we still have, I think, some of my colleagues in the design world, not just at Gensler, but our wonderful colleague competitors, they were really hesitant to talk about sustainability because it was like it costs more or it's not in our remit. And often the managers of a project have a tight budget, tight time frame. What's happening at the very top, the leaders of our country, the 100% of our top 100 clients, the Bank of America's, the Googles, the energy companies, it's all in the C-suite now. That sustainability, particularly measurable impact, i.e. we're doing something that's not just jargon. We actually have through third-party certifications, LEED being one, or other means now around this thing called ESG, environment, social, and corporate governance. There's more and more focus on don't just do it, but show us how you're going to do it, document how you're going to do it, because it's an important brand, investment, and even insurance focus for us in the design world now.
And you were at the conference in Paris.
COP21.
And talk to me a little bit about that. I know it was several years ago, so there was another one since that time. But in something like that, because nations are pretty much talking about whether climate control, for example, how has it changed, or do you find that people are at task, like they're ready to do something?
That's a very good observation. Between 2015, COP21 in Paris, where for the first time, we as a building design industry, owners, operators, developers, were at the table. It was the first time that the UN, who runs these COP events, sort of pulled all us together to say, the built environment, the design, the construction, the operations, we hope the long-term life is an amazing component of our climate challenge. And it's one that professionals could and should and will address. So 2015 was that aha moment in Paris. And of course, Paris is marvelous. It's been there for hundreds, if not thousands of years. It was a wonderful model of what a city could be, to be sustainable, but also focusing on climate. And of course, the various pavilions, the fancy government pavilion, then there was the rest of us. There was just a joy of being together saying, we can do something about this. This isn't the we can't tackle it, the impossible sort of approach. What's interesting with Glasgow this past year is it's now beyond we need to do something, we're probably responsible for it, here are the steps to get there, and we need to get from the countries down to, individual landowners, CBRE, who's, the leader of this particular development in which we sit. Everyone knows their role, everyone is moving toward creating measurable objectives. Some would say they need to go farther, faster. 2030, 2040, 2050, we're now establishing targets. And for instance, our Gensler Cities Climate Challenge is really setting down to not far away, and that's the big issue with Glasgow now, is we have to set concrete targets and meet them, to your good point. It can't be something fuzzy. And to play games by country X or Y, you're now called out. You can see that you're not really walking the walk like you're talking the talk. That's the big difference. It's no longer, treaties. It's let's see the action.
Awesome. And you're here today to deliver, what is your talk about?
Well, there's a lot of things that Gensler's doing as arguably the world's largest architectural planning design firm. We're not engineers, we partner with amazing engineers. But because of our scale, we believe that making a clear direction, challenging our industry is really important. And in fact, about 2 years ago, just as the pandemic kind of launched, our CEO, Diane Hoskins, who did attend the COP26, spoke to the UN plenary session and really emphasized how important the built environment is for this conversation. So today I'm going to be sharing something called the Gensler Cities Climate Challenge. Now, it's not just about carbon, it's not just about sustainability, but it's about us as a very large organization, 50 some odd offices across the globe, challenging our entire industry to take concrete steps, focusing on our cities, which, as you know, we now all live in cities, the majority of us are in cities, and it's about climate. But it's not that we have an answer. We really are looking to gather the folks to go on the journey together. And so it's kind of a call to arms from the wonderful leaders of Arizona that will be speaking here, publishers, taste makers, culture shapers that you are, is how do we get not just the makers of the buildings, but it comes down to the colleagues who are taping this, to the people walking by. It's a behavior shift. It's recognizing that what we do every day has a huge impact for your kids, your grandkids. I mean, it's that notion of begin with the end in mind, the old Tom Peters thinking. The fact is, we have to all work together, and that's kind of a call for collaboration is our intent.
Well, I can't wait to hear your talk and meet everybody else who's going to be here, because this is actually our first, right?
That's right, inaugural. Hurrah, it's all good. Thank you very much, Carol. We appreciate
Thank you so
being
much,
here.
Reeves. Yeah, absolutely. And we will be back with more from our Earth Day Summit after this. Everyone, and welcome to the Green Living Gensler Earth Day Summit here in Arizona. We're so excited today. We have a bunch of movers and shakers that will be talking about sustainability in our great state. And I'm your host, Carol Kahn with Green Living Magazine, and I'd like to introduce you to Kaylee, who's with Gensler.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's so great to have you.
Yes.
And Kaylee, talk a little bit about what you actually do at Gensler.
Sure. So I am the Director of Sustainability for our Phoenix office. I'm one of our many in-house sustainability specialists. So I work with our clients to help them understand what sort of impact their designs and their projects are making, helping translate some of their corporate sustainability goals or ESG tracking into design. How does your project, your real estate footprint actually coordinate with climate action goals, carbon reduction goals? And so that's a little bit of what I do. I also work with our design teams hand in hand to help select healthier, more sustainable materials, trying to understand how to coordinate with our contractors so that we can actually realize these goals. And then also thinking about the future. How do you frame out a 30-year, 20-year sustainability plan for your corporation or for your campus or for your projects?
Now, you're dealing with a lot of products that are sustainable.
Yes.
So how have you seen the products actually change from like a product that we would like use before this whole sustainability thing came into play?
Right. So the products have changed in sort of two main ways. The products themselves have changed. We've seen some substitutions of ingredients. We've seen, for instance, carpets are now looking at bio-based resins in their binders, which have a lower carbon footprint. So ingredients are changing, or the makeup of the material is changing. But we've also seen a lot of our manufacturing partners change the way they operate, and actually looking at their operations, their manufacturing processes, trying to make them, reduce the carbon, make them environmentally friendly, and also looking at the social impacts of where they're putting their factories.
You know what's interesting, when we start talking about like carpeting or tile or anything like that, typically some of those things are made to last, right?
Yes.
And so in the sustainability category, are they still made to last, or what is the longevity of the products?
Yes, the products are still made to last, and actually that's a really important part about a sustainable design, because we often end up building faster, renewing projects faster than the lifespan of the materials themselves. So we've been working really diligently on smart demolition, or how can we encourage our clients to actually reuse materials, reuse workstations and furniture in their new offices, so they're maintaining that durability, that long life of those materials. And then what's really exciting is some of our manufacturers are not only looking at take-back programs where they're reclaiming all these materials after use to reintegrate into their supply chains, but also they're looking at like different leasing options or like different ownership options of larger architectural assemblies, so that they can still be used again, if not by that owner, then another owner.
Mm-hmm. Now, you went to school at Harvard, is that correct?
Yes.
So, and you have a master's?
Yes.
A master's degree. So, when I went to college, it was a long time ago, we didn't have anything like like this as far as in design or so in colleges now or in universities. Is this an area of study that is really being looked at for the future?
100%. And it's not necessarily a separate area of study, although there are some wonderful programs out there about environmental engineering, sustainable thinking, but we're really seeing that integrate into the current curriculums for students, whether it's a design curriculum. So I'm part of our alumni council at the Graduate School of Design for Harvard, and we're looking at, how can we, as alumni, feed back what we're seeing in the industries to the students and the professors, and so they're integrating it into the curriculums they already have. So it's like the curriculums are evolving to keep up with with our current trends.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what is it that you're currently working on like right now?
Oh my goodness, I'm working on a lot of things. We're working on a couple multifamily housing projects, trying to understand how do you put in sustainability measures that may not be carried by the owner but by the tenant. We're also working on a lot of workplace strategy, particularly those where we have clients that have they're building everywhere around the world, so how do we modify their design standards so that we're looking for a more sustainable edge for their design standards, but also keeping in mind the regionality and the locality of their current projects. And then, of course, we've got some great work going on. I'm part of our firm-wide effort to update our documents so that we can integrate more sustainability requirements into just our bread and butter contract documents. So.
Awesome. And your talk today, what is that about?
I'm going to be talking a little bit about what I do as a director of sustainability, how I integrate with our design teams and our clients, but really I'm just the MC, shepherding everyone around, dropping in a few jokes if I can, doing what I can to host. So,
well, it's great to have you here with us.
Thank
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
And thank you. So,
absolutely. And we will be back with more from the Green Living and Gensler Earth Day Summit after this. Everyone, and welcome to Gensler and Green Living's Earth Day Summit. I'm your host, Carol Kahn. We are coming to you from Arizona, from Phoenix, Arizona, and with a full day of movers and shakers that are talking about sustainability and ways to save our planet. And joining me now is Vanessa with ASU. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for having me. Great event and great opportunity, right, to spread the word far and wide as we look to create even more sustainable solutions.
Absolutely. And what is your role here at the summit?
So my role today, I would say two main things. One, I am one of the moderators for our first panel. So really looking forward to that and diving a little bit deeper, right, into the topic of sustainability and how different organizations and companies are really implementing sustainable, hopefully long-term solutions into the work that they do every single day. And then just as an attendee, frankly, looking to learn, looking to expand my own personal knowledge in terms of what is being done across the spectrum when it comes to potential sustainable solutions. It's an important topic for all of us, and I have no doubt it's going to be a terrific day.
I could probably share this with you because being in media and on the other side, being in journalism for quite some time, I look at the word sustainability, right? And if I would ask anybody that would walk by, what does sustainability mean to you? Nobody would know how to define it. So do you find that at all? I mean, and I know ASU, for example, is very, very much like, working in sustainability. So do you find that at all, or what's your take on that?
Well, yes, to a certain extent, right? I think you have a good point when you say if you ask most of the general public, what does sustainability mean to you, we're probably going to get many different answers, right? And in some ways, I can understand that. At ASU, certainly the university has made a tremendous commitment to finding sustainable solutions for all different kinds of issues and topics across the world. As a matter of fact, I want to say last week, we inaugurated a new school focused entirely on sustainability and finding the answers to a healthier, better planet down the road. And I will tell you, Carol, the one thing I do always say, though, when the topic of sustainability comes up, and many different people have many different thoughts and opinions about sustainability, I always say, at the end of the day, we really can't do anything if we don't have a planet, if you don't have a place to do it. And now I have 2 young children, and so I also look at this issue from their eyes and thinking about their own future and the kind of planet and the kind of environment that they're going to inherit from us. And so I look at that as a huge responsibility that we have, and I hope that most of us can step up and meet the needs of that responsibility.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like that climate change has been like this topic, right? And not so much like to scare, our youth, but in a way it is, because trying to figure out what does that mean for the future. And, we're given deadlines. We're giving, by 2025, we have to have this in place. By 2030, we have to have this in place. By 2050, if this isn't in place, then our planet's going to be a dust ball, right? And that's kind of what scientists are talking about right now. And so, for our youth, for most of us that are moving up, we might see that, we may not see that, but it's definitely for, our children, and that's something that we really need to take a look at.
100%. And I would add to that, Carol, that during my teaching time, when I have the opportunity to be in the classroom and engage with the students, and I teach Gen Z. So I teach those anywhere between 18 to 21, 22-year-olds. They have, for the most part, I think, a really clear vision and perspective of what sustainability, climate change means to them. As a matter of fact, I would certainly say it is probably top 3 topics of importance to this generation, the Gen Z generation. And kudos to them, right, for recognizing and frankly having little to no problems in acknowledging that this is an issue that we all have to take on and participate and make it a priority. Again, if we don't have a planet, really can't do much there.
Right.
A sustainable planet, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's good that you brought that out, because definitely that is the generation that is going to move everything forward.
It is, but I candidly will share with you that, and this is just me, Vanessa Ruiz talking, I share, when I hear them talk, I feel guilty sometimes and think about, gosh, we're not doing enough. Our generation, my generation. I'm a way older millennial. As a matter of fact, even Gen X, the lost generation, it's like a 1-year generation, Gen X. And I feel like we also have that responsibility to make sure that we're doing everything we can to leave it as best as possible for them. So I also don't want them to feel like they have to carry that entire weight of making it better if we can make it better also now.
Right. And I'm going to say I'm a little bit older than that in another generation. And we're definitely responsible for causing a lot of this. But you know what? You're only good for what you know, right? And at the time, this is what we knew. And technology now is completely different than it was 20 and 30 years ago. And it's completely different than it was 5 and 10 years ago. So, we're all learning about this, but the beauty of what we're doing, especially like today, for example, is that we all have to come together and really make change, right? Because
Absolutely.
Otherwise it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, and that's why events like today are so important. And my hope is that this is a one-day event, but that it's going to have roots and spread far and wide. And those of us who are here today will take what we learn, the knowledge that we glean out of this event, and just take it out there and, again, put it into action.
Yep, absolutely. And Earth Day is every day.
That's right. That's right. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you so much for being with us. I can't wait to see you out there moderating, and it's such a pleasure having you with us. So
thank you so much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we will be back with more from the Gensler Green Living Magazine Earth Day Summit after this. everyone, and welcome to Green Living and Gensler's Earth Day Summit. I'm your host, Carol Kahn. We are coming to you from Arizona, which is a huge day today because there are movers and shakers from all over the state talking about sustainability and what we're going to do to save our planet. And joining me now is Jay with Gensler, and it's so nice to have you here with us
Thank
today.
you. It's a pleasure to be here on this really great day.
Yeah, and especially being one of our sponsors or co-hosts of the event. It's amazing.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit, because you're in design.
Correct.
And what does that particularly, like, what do you do as far as in design?
Okay. Well, no, thank you for asking that question. It's certainly a very strong passion of mine and of our firm Gensler. We work with clients, we work with communities, we work with constituent groups to really help them bring their visions to fruition. We help lead a great studio here in Phoenix on multiple project types. Specifically with a really strong emphasis on sustainability, and that's why today's event is so important, and we're so excited to be here representing our firm.
Well, your firm has a lot of people speaking today,
Yes.
and it's been amazing.
Yes.
And it's also just been amazing learning, because I think from a sustainability standpoint, and I've asked this question from several of your coworkers, is that how do you define sustainability?
Well, sustainability, we believe are the things that we can do, as a community and particularly as a firm to support, really the future of our planet. And so, we as a firm look at sustainability in kind of three, I would say, buckets. We look at it from an environmental perspective, which is how we design buildings, how we respond to this exact context that we live in, the Sonoran Desert. So, we pride ourselves in bringing ideas that are really based on technologies that we have within the firm to allow us to do that. So environmental, sustainability really is about creating, human comfort for people who live here in the desert. It also is about really working with our clients to kind of help develop means and methods to kind of save energy, to save water, and really be great stewards of our context here in Arizona. Secondly, there's a social piece to it, and that's really a piece about sustainability that really engages people and communities at many levels. That, what we do, particularly designing buildings, is much more than just brick and mortar. It's really about understanding, a lot of the needs and really the impacts that people can have every day on sustainability. And then last thing is kind of what we call governance, and governance is really policy making, and we believe a lot of sustainability starts at that level where, for example, events like today are so important and so interesting, where community groups and constituents and folks come together that have a common language and a common desire and hope for our state and for the world from sustainability perspective, and that we as designers are involved in and hopefully can help with some of that governance and policy that begins to be set up. Again, way beyond just the brick and mortar of designing a building.
Right. I'm the kind of person that I want things to happen pretty quickly. And so when I look at things that, for instance, when things were green, LEED certified or platinum certified or whatever that is, right? We're talking about something that could have happened like 20 years ago, and or more, actually more. And so, I try to look at the longevity of how long it took from that moment to where we are now. And, being on the outside, I feel like it's taken a really long time to get to this particular point. But you're on the inside. So what differences have you seen? And is it moving slow, or do you feel like it's moving fast?
I kind of feel like we're beginning to feel a lot of momentum, with sustainability and sustainability issues. I think people are becoming so much more aware of the effects of things that all of us, kind of do in our everyday lives that can really affect our environment, And so again, we as a firm have really, championed sustainability and really looking at, the broad implications that design and architecture have in our communities, So for us, it's, everything from, specifying materials that, that are sustainable, and materials that are, particularly here in the desert, that are responsive to our heat and to our direct sunlight that we have. Designing, projects that have shade and have materials that actually reflect heat and the sun, not absorb it. And so, we kind of feel that, we put such a strong focus on sustainability, and that, over the, even the past 5 years, we've just have felt a tremendous momentum starting with that. I think, the sort of, impacts of climate change, and I think people are now seeing that in a way that they hadn't seen it before. And I think a lot of it is the communication and the really promoting of that in a bigger way. So I think more people are aware. Mm-hmm. And I think the awareness, at least I think from our perspective, has been tremendously heightened recently, which has been really, really exciting.
Yeah, so you just brought up a good point, because you're talking about the desert and landscape, and you're from Miami.
Yeah.
So, the Miami area, right, in Florida,
right.
which is completely different than desert landscape. Right. So explain to everyone, basically, what would be the difference, because you're talking about a lot of dust, sand, dirt in comparison.
No, we'd be happy to. And by the way, I've been here in Arizona about 30 years, so I had a bit of my certainly my upbringing in South Florida. But I think from our perspective, a lot of it is really kind of twofolds. There's kind of physical sustainability and design work that we do that are actually the buildings, places, and spaces that we inhabit here in the desert. And then there's also a piece of it that's really about what I like to call the human comfort factor of sustainability. And so for example, what's really just fascinating is that when we look at, like, say, our average peak temperature in the summertime, we're all used to, it could be 110 degrees, 115 degrees, right? We're used to, dealing with that, for a few months, right? If you put your hand down and touch the surface, I mean, it is literally 140 to 150 degrees. Everyone will agree to that, right? It's like, in the hot time of summer, you've got those things to deal with. So we've learned, kind of being here as long as we have, that, small design moves on projects can make projects and spaces habitable, and human comfort a really wonderful thing in the desert. So for example, if you come in and put a shade structure over a piece of concrete, you instantly, and roughly at about 10 or 12 feet high, you take the temperature down, roughly 18 degrees by just putting shade on top of a piece of concrete during peak summertime. Now, if you factor in also designing in a way for some air movement and bringing in moisture or water into that. So when you visit some of the really successful areas and places in Arizona, they really have this mixture of shade. There's lush landscaping. They're oriented and designed in a way to allow the natural breezes to come through. Mm-hmm. And then you'll see a lot of times like moisture brought in, like misting systems or wonderful fountains that kind of bring sound and serenity to a project. But all that together can take surface temperature from 140 degrees, somewhere in like the 85 to 90 degrees. So design little things like that all of us are learning, kind of living here in the desert, just fascinating to me. And so, those are the kind of things that, we as a firm bring to our work here in the desert, to kind of make projects, habitable. And that's really, really important.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to call you to come up to Sedona.
Yeah, there we go. Now,
in the middle of the summer, just to make sure that I cool off. I'm counting on you for that. Well, thank you so much for being with us. And your talk today is going to be about?
Well, basically, I'm part of the team that's going to kind of introduce the entire program for today. So we have a tremendous group of experts and a tremendous group of community leaders and constituents and community leaders. And again, everyone with a really strong focus and advocacy for sustainability and making our planet habitable for the future. So we're really excited about that.
And we are so excited to partner with Gensler. So thank you so much for being with Green Living and also
Our
Gensler.
Pleasure.
So
Our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And we will be back with more from our Earth Day Summit with Green Living Magazine and Gensler after this. everyone, and welcome to our first annual Earth Day Summit with Green Living Magazine and Gensler. We're so excited to be here today. We have a bunch of movers and shakers in the next room over talking about ways to save our planet and how appropriate on Earth Day. I'd like to introduce you to Martha, who is with Gensler. And it's so exciting to have you here and also to partner with you with this event. So this is our first of many, and so welcome.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah, really excited to be here, and yes, we really want this to be the first of many. So we're excited about it, yeah.
That's awesome. So tell me exactly, so you're here in Phoenix. Are you from here originally, or?
No, I've kind of done the smile. So I started out in Florida, moved to California, and then ended up in Phoenix about in 2004. Mm-hmm. So.
And tell us, what do you do at Gensler?
So I am the managing director of our Phoenix office and a principal with the firm. So I kind of help do everything pretty much, it feels like.
You run the show.
Yeah, with a lot of help.
Yes.
With a lot of help, for sure.
How many do you have on board at Gensler?
So we're hovering at about 65 plus, and actively hiring and looking for more talented folks.
So if anybody...
Yeah.
And it's a great company because you're worldwide.
We are worldwide.
Yes.
We have about, I think it's up to like 55 offices around the globe now, which is incredible to think. And through the pandemic, through the last 2 years, we've actually hired 2,400 people. So we have 2,400 new people in the firm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, how did that work? Because with everybody being work from home and all of that, was that difficult to manage, or did it kind of work?
Yeah, I think initially it was a little challenging. Most of those people were hired virtually and had never even been to a Gensler office, so it was pretty unique in that sense. But once everyone got the hang of it, it became kind of like second nature. And now that we're sort of instituting a hybrid approach to work, folks are finding it challenging to kind of figure out what days to come in, how they work out, child care and dog care and pet care and all kinds of things. So
it's a whole new world.
It's a whole new world. Yes.
It really is. It's
yes.
a whole new world. Well, speaking of a new world, which is kind of what we're talking about today, is moving in that direction. Yeah. Give me some things that Gensler is actually doing to set the stage for sustainability.
So by the year 2030, our initiative is to have carbon neutrality for all of our projects. So there's a big initiative firm-wide with that respect. And so each office is responsible individually for carrying that out, and here, I think you met Kaylee Blackstock, and she's just been tremendous in spearheading that effort. So we've got like a road show that we're putting together to meet with contractors to talk about how we integrate certain things into our specifications so that nobody freaks out when they see it initially, and meeting with clients, right off the bat to explain the process and how things might be different, and just really educating everyone that we work with that it doesn't mean that it needs to cost more, it just means you have to do it in a very smart and intentional way.
Mm-hmm. There's so many architecture firms, right? How does Gensler separate themselves from the pack?
Well, that's a great question, and we love to talk about that because our approach is completely integrated, and so we've got, Diane Hoskins, who's one of our co-CEOs, about 10, 13 years ago, instituted the Gensler Research Institute. So we actually have researchers that work for us that help initiate all these surveys that create the documentation that we put out, the thought leadership and whatnot. So that's pretty incredible. We have a whole group and practice area that is about design strategy. So everything before the project starts. There's a roadmap to how the project should go. And so not many firms have that. It's kind of like what happens before the project starts going. And so, we've got 28 practice areas that we integrate into everything that we do. I mean, oftentimes if you're doing an office workplace, there's a hospitality element to that. There's now there's even a residential aspect to that. So all of these practice areas help influence everything that we do on a daily basis.
Now, I know I'm putting you on the spot when I ask you this question, but with everything that you do, is there any project that's current right now that just stands out that you could say, yeah, like we're really proud of that? You're probably proud of a lot of them.
Yeah. But There's a lot of great work happening, but I have to say it's fresh in my mind. This morning, we went to the ribbon cutting of our Northrop Grumman manufacturing facility that had office space also. That place is incredible. I mean, the precision and the dedication and commitment from everyone on the team for that project was incredible. And then hearing, and you're probably going to hear me say this a little bit later, but their approach to sustainability and really trying to navigate through that, and talking about, it's not just about sustainability on Earth, it's like in space, and like actively dealing with space debris, and trying to find ways to circumvent all of that. So I was super inspired being there this morning and just really proud of what we've done there.
It's interesting that you just said that, because especially with architecture, right? People just think, oh, it's a building or it's a house or it's this, but it doesn't really encompass everything else that you have to take into account.
Right.
Yeah. So it's pretty amazing that it goes beyond that.
Absolutely.
And your talk today, what is it that you're going to be presenting?
Well, I'm just welcome. I'm just kind of an introduction and welcoming everyone. There's some amazing panelists and thought leaders, both in the industry and in our community, that are going to be sharing their thoughts about sustainability. So.
And what is it your hope that comes out of this whole entire event?
I really hope that we can think about things differently and not just talk about it, that there's something tangible that comes out of this today that becomes, there becomes a cadence about how we approach our work and what we do every day.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't want any more talk. I want action.
Exactly.
I want action. So anybody who's watching this, it's action. No more dogging. Well, Martha, thank you so much for being with us. Can't wait to see what's getting ready to happen next door.
Well, thank
you.
And
it's such a pleasure having you here with us.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Carol.
Yes. And we'll be back with more from the Green Living and Gensler Earth Day Summit after this.
I'm retired Senator Bob Worsley. I'm pleased to be with you this morning in this conference and grateful for the opportunity to share with you a little bit about our company, Zenny Home. So we took a factory in the old Navajo Generating Station building in Page, and we used laid off Navajo workers, and we opened this factory. There's breathtaking natural beauty up in Page, Arizona, but there were 1,000 people that were let go when this happened 1 year ago. 77-story buildings. So we were able to get the keys to that building in December, a couple months ago. And now it's our factory for our homes. We have 17 stations inside the factory to build 7 homes a day. This is the first units that we're figuring out and working out the kinks. You see the two modules that make the larger Citizen in the back, and then the 2 smaller units here in the front, the Denizen. Again, Navajo workers that are being reemployed from that layoff are back to work. Page is actually at the center of about 80 million population between Salt Lake, Phoenix, Albuquerque, Denver, Las Vegas, and the West Coast. We plan to have 4 of these factories that allow us to do about $1 billion of revenue from these 4 factories, starting in Page. We believe in steel versus wood. We use this machine, a FrameCAD 550, that takes cold rolled galvanized steel and makes studs. It can make 1.5 miles of studs in 1 hour. You just take a coil of steel from our steel mill, Simco. We buy these from a master roll, have them slitted into width, and then it just unrolls like paper towels into the machine that makes all the studs to build a building like this. Stronger than wood. The building will last 50% longer than a wooden building. It's accurate to 1/25 of an inch. You can recycle things to get the material. So 1 recycled car does our Denizen, 2 recycled cars will do our Citizen. So it's sustainable. The labor, because it's 3 times faster to frame with steel, is cheaper. And usually the steel commodity is cheaper than wood. The cost, you also have the control of a short supply chain. We buy mill direct from Simco. This is what our rolls will look like that come to the machine. There's no rot, rust, shrink, warp, creep, split, crack, or expand and contraction due to moisture. No mold or termite or bug infestation. Mold needs organic material to grow and still doesn't provide that. It's a class 3 fire resistant building out of class 5 flammable wooden building. And we hope to save 30% of the cost and 50% of schedule to build with our modules. Thank you. I appreciate your time, and hopefully this was helpful on this beautiful Earth Day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everybody, and welcome to Green Living and Gensler's Earth Day Summit. I'm your host, Carol Kahn. We are coming to you from Scottsdale, Arizona, where we're talking about sustainability all day today. And we have some exciting movers and shakers, politicians right here with me as well. And we're just excited to be able to talk about ways in which we can save our planet. So joining me now is Ginger. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me here today. So honored to be here, especially on this Earth Day celebration. So my background is environmental science and policy, and so earth and environmental issues are very dear to my heart.
That is so awesome. So talk to me a little bit about sustainability and what that means to you.
So I think sustainability to me is really thinking about our future generations and what we're going to leave behind for them. I am a mom to 3 awesome kids, and they are worried about their own future in this world, in this environment. And so for me, it's really thinking through everything that we are involved in, energy, natural resources wise, and making sure that we are not leaving the world in a better place for our future generations, and not forgoing opportunities that our future generations would really want to have.
Now, you are from the Navajo Nation, and we were just talking, and I didn't realize how many that we actually have here in our state. So how many do we have?
So I am Navajo. I'm Dene Todachitni, born for the Bilagana, and I actually was born in Tuba City on the Navajo Nation, and I grew up in Mesa, Arizona, which is off the reservation, and there are many like me in Arizona. Arizona has 22 tribal nations, but about 40% of our Native American population in Arizona resides in our urban metro areas.
That's amazing. And I don't know if you're going to be able to answer me when I ask this question. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot, but I'm a huge proponent in the environment. I live in Sedona, Arizona, which is the most beautiful place, as you know. And I feel like that our land is sacred. And I feel too many times that people don't value our land or take care of our land. So, but dating back to the indigenous people, the land is very sacred, right? So can you kind of address that? Or, like I said, I don't mean to put you on the spot of that, but I feel like it's really important to address.
I think the land is something that is ingrained in our culture and heritage. Respecting our Mother Earth is almost a universal Native teaching across all of our Native homelands. And my daughter, I chose to name her Shikeya, which means my beloved homeland. So it is my way of honoring not only the land that my people are from, the Navajo people, but also remembering that in everything I do and everything that she does to take care of our land and make sure that everything we do with respect to our earth is not only using it, but also making sure that we are leaving enough behind so that it is sustainable, so that it will be here in the next thousands of years.
As you were saying that, I got goosebumps, like, I'm being serious. That is so beautiful and so touching.
Yeah, and I've worked my career in, it's something that I take so seriously that I went to school, studied environmental science and policy at Stanford University, and have been working for the last almost 20 years in this field of environmental consulting and renewable energy planning, climate resilience planning, and also land use planning. So making sure that when we're thinking about all the land uses that happen across our western United States, we are allocating the right land uses to the right areas. So we are not endangering endangered species even more than they are, or we're not interrupting cultural resources, so that when we are planning for land uses around the state, that they're the most appropriate uses.
Wow. So talk to me a little bit about your thoughts, because again, for me, I like seeing things moving quickly, and but being in the field and being sustainability, where have you seen the most change in what you do?
So what I do is, when I first went to college, I studied Earth system science. So that's how the global environmental land, air, and water systems interact with each other. And at that time, climate change was a known issue, but scientists were hesitant to attribute any one single weather event to climate, like our changing climate. And now, more and more often and frequently, scientists are willing to say, this massive storm is one of the indicators that our climate is changing. So they've seen enough patterns over the last 20 years. And so I think for me, that's the biggest thing that I've seen in our environmental field. And that's giving scientists and policymakers the ability to show the public that changes are needed more quickly. And so now that it's being able to tie climate change to weather or large scale wildfires or drought and that type of thing, I think we'll be able to get more traction in taking care of those issues from the policy side. And so I've been working on that climate resilience measure with urban heat. So I serve on our City of Phoenix Environmental Quality Commission, and I lead a whole subcommittee on urban heat, tree, and shade issues. And what we're doing is trying to urge our city council and mayor's office to prioritize planning for extreme and longer, hotter summers. And so through that is thinking through the impacts to our populations. It's a public health issue, and the more that we can plan now, the less we're going to have to pay down the road with either, hazards to our public health or trying to remedy that on the backside. So it's going to be cheaper to think about those issues right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is ingrained in your culture, right? And so also talking about water. So water is also sacred, and people just don't get that either. But so talk to me a little bit about the importance of water in culture and sustainability.
Yeah, so water is something that, everything on life needs water. All life needs water, and so it is sacred, and it is something that living out here in the West, we treasure even more because it is in shorter supply. And Arizona as a state has done relatively well planning for the water future, but we are seeing cutbacks in our Colorado River water storage and supplies. And so that's something that our state is really going to have to take seriously in the future in addressing on a regional scale. There's no one single entity that can fix the water issue, but I think a lot of it also starts with educating people to conserve water. That's what everybody in the state can do right now, is use less water. Turn the faucet off while you're brushing your teeth. I learned this when I was a kid, and so it's not new information, but it's always good to remind people, and that's the very basic thing we can do.
Now you're running for Congress.
I am.
So what is the biggest issue that you want to make sure that that you deliver?
In terms of policy issues?
Yes, that you want to work on.
Well, obviously environmental science and policy is my professional background and my passion, and so that is something that I would love to work on, is making sure that our cities and states are preparing for the effects of climate change. I don't see enough of that going on, and I want to make sure that our resources are investing in making sure that our most vulnerable communities are being taken care of. We've seen the devastation that a pandemic can do to Native American communities in particular. Those same communities are going to be the most vulnerable to climate impacts as well. And so we need to invest, and it has already started with the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, but that is a one-time thing, and so I want to ensure that there is significant investment in our state and all aspects of our state, in my district, but also throughout our state. So,
well, I'm counting on you.
And I have the track record to do this, and that's why I'm motivated to run. I know that I can make the change that I want to see in our communities.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And these are the kind of people that we need, right?
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. Yes.
Be the change and make the change. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. And we'll be back with more from Green Living and Gensler Earth Day Summit after this. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Green Living and Gensler Earth Day Summit. I'm your host, Carol Kahn. We're coming to you from Scottsdale talking about Earth Day, sustainability, and we're dealing with a lot of movers and shakers and politicians such as...
I am Jerry Bienwillner, the mayor of the town of Paradise Valley.
Yeah, so we're having such a great day today, great talks, And we're so excited to have you here on board. So thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So tell me, why is it important that we're talking about sustainability?
Yeah, thank you. This is a great effort, community effort. I'm here with a lot of other local leaders, and there is certainly a value placed in my community on sustainability, and the importance is obvious. I think within Paradise Valley, it's honoring the community that we live in and our resources, and making sure that we have a path forward for the future.
You know, I live up in Sedona, so, you know, and close to Flagstaff, and I know that both Flagstaff and Sedona has claimed a state of emergency as far as sustainability, climate control, and that kind of thing. But in talking to like the average resident of Sedona, nobody really knows what that means, or no one really knows that we're in a state of emergency. So what does that mean to you, and do you have the same kind of state of emergency here as far as climate control as we do up in Sedona? A stone's throw away.
Yes, the issues I think in Paradise Valley are a little different. We have a limited government model, so we rely on regional partnerships to try to understand exactly how we plug into the broader efforts on climate and other resources. We have been focused lately on water in particular as a resource that's important to the sustainability of the region and our continued success and growth, and looking for ways to familiarize the public with those issues and really, as we like to do in our town, have community buy-in and support for future efforts and voluntary participation in programs that can make a difference.
And being on the political side, how easy or how difficult is it to move forward in even working on sustainability?
It depends, and I think a lot of it is approach. In Paradise Valley in particular, we have a lot of business leaders and other professionals with a high level of education typically, and so folks tend to understand the technical side of the issues, and I think as long as people are dealt with honestly and can understand the benefits not only to themselves but to their families in the future of engaging in certain activities and avoiding others, then it becomes a very productive conversation, and that's the direction that our town has taken it in.
Mm-hmm. And in this particular Earth Day, and this is our first summit, hopefully of many to come, why is it important for you to be here?
Really just to show my support for these efforts to learn about best practices, and try to understand how we can inform our community and really engage in a helpful and productive way within the state as a key player within the state. So that's why I'm here, and it's great to see so many other impactful people here and other leaders that are willing to listen and learn and try to work together. That's been a successful model for us.
Mm-hmm. And in looking at the state as a whole, how do you feel about how Arizona is moving in this particular area?
I'm encouraged. I know there's been a lot of discussion, as I said, about water in particular and water resources, and I think that's very helpful. But from my vantage point, I think the state's doing a good job of looking at the issues and trying to understand the issues and build consensus around the issues so that we move forward together as a broader community rather than having debates or arguments about moving things forward without the support behind it, which I think then can become a distraction. So it's all about getting things done and doing it in a cooperative way, and I think to me it seems that we're on that path.
Okay, and then if you had one takeaway from today, because I know you're basically observing and trying to garner some ideas for yourself and for your town, but if there was one takeaway from today that you actually hope to get, what would that be?
Well, it's learning, and I think as an example, I was in an earlier presentation, there was some discussion from Gensler about how some simple design tweaks could lower temperatures in buildings and in homes, and I think small things like that impact the broader environment, but also make a difference to people's lives. In Paradise Valley, for example, people want to enjoy the outdoors outside their home, and trying to understand and learn those types of techniques and information is just a great resource to have. So that's a great reason to be here.
Yeah, no, so I know exactly what you're talking about because I believe it was Jerry who was talking about that, or Jay was talking about that from Gensler, and he talked about shading and heat and that kind of thing. But as mayor, how does that make you make changes in your town? Like what would be something that you could take away from that, but that you would incorporate in a change? Is it just sheer knowledge of understanding and learning about that, or how would that help you?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And we have a general plan in the town that's updated every 10 years. We're going through that process right now, and there is a priority on resources and sustainability. And so our practice has been to encourage those kinds of building techniques that maximize sustainability and also have these other corollary benefits like reduction of heat load and things of that nature. So being up to speed on the latest information and being able to disseminate that within the town opens eyes, and it gets people asking for those kinds of things, talking to their builders, their architects, their construction team about what can be done to help themselves, but also the broader community. And I think that's a great kind of synergy that we look for.
Yeah, you're going to need that when it's 122.
For sure.
I know. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure talking to you, and very grateful to be here.
Yeah, I'm going to keep tabs on you to make sure and see what you're up to.
Please do.
Just to keep you in line. Well, thank you, and we'll be back with more from the Green Living and Gensler Summit after this.
Hey everybody, Senator Mark Kelly here, and I thank you for inviting me to be part of today's event on the future of sustainability in Arizona. As all of us know, Arizona is one of the best places in the country to live, to work, and to start a business. And we've seen historic job growth in some leading edge industries here in Arizona, from microchip producers to electric vehicle manufacturers and so much more. These investments will create thousands of new good paying jobs in our state. And these industries are also critical to advancing the sustainability goals of our state and our country. As Arizona's senator, I've been focused on ensuring the federal government supports this historic growth. That's why I worked for months last year to negotiate and pass my bipartisan deal to provide $52 billion to boost American semiconductor manufacturing. And that's why, as one of the 11 Republicans and 11 Democrats who negotiated the final infrastructure law, I fought for historic investments to grow our state's transit systems and help prepare our roads and highways for electric vehicles. But I have also been focused on confronting one of the most serious challenges that our state faces, the ongoing drought. Over the past year, about a year and a half, that I've been in the Senate, I fought to secure historic investments in water infrastructure across the state. Our infrastructure law provides nearly $8 billion for Western water infrastructure to help the Bureau of Reclamation invest in projects across the state, which will conserve scarce Colorado River water. Now, here is what that's going to look like: repairing aging dams and pumping stations, lining canals, and implementing innovative storage projects and options. And our bill provides historic investments in wildfire prevention, water and wastewater system upgrades, and it streamlines the permitting process for new investments in renewable energy. The challenges Arizona is facing, from drought, from wildfire, and more, they're serious challenges. But I also believe that these challenges and the historic investments in infrastructure and economic development coming from Arizona provide an extraordinary opportunity. Arizona is already leading the way in developing next-generation electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. I've met with businesses who are prepared to develop and test new technologies to better manage or reuse our scarce water resources. And Arizona has led the way in showing how public-private partnerships can help prevent wildfire risk. As your senator, I look forward to working with all of you to continue to support efforts to achieve our necessary sustainability goals while continuing Arizona's historic economic growth. Please continue to consider me and my office a resource as we work together to accomplish these dual goals. And thank you all for being a part of this important conversation today, and I hope you enjoy the conference.
I'm honored to be with you all this Earth Day to discuss the future of sustainability in Arizona. Arizona is known for our beautiful public lands, impressive mountains, and endless opportunities for outdoor recreation. And our economic growth and prosperity depend on our state remaining a safe and stunning place for Americans across the country to come enjoy and explore. That's why I'm focused on growing a more sustainable economy here at home, fighting extreme drought, and preventing dangerous wildfires. When I was tasked with negotiating and writing our bipartisan infrastructure, investment, and jobs law, I ensured that we secured billions of dollars building and strengthening water systems in Arizona and across the West. And I prioritized historic investments, helping Arizona communities prevent and recover from wildfires. Sustainability, however, isn't just about responding to the immediate crises. Focusing on sustainability allows us to look forward, prioritize innovation, and create even more economic growth and good-paying jobs. Investments from our infrastructure law will help create a more sustainable Arizona. And that's something that you all have mastered. The work you do every day thinking outside the box to build a more sustainable and prosperous Arizona ensures our state continues to be a beautiful destination for tourists to visit, businesses to set up shop, and Americans from across the country to lay down roots and call home. I'm proud to support your efforts, which is why, in addition to repairing dated infrastructure across our state, our infrastructure law also tackles the challenges of the future through historic funding for electric vehicle infrastructure, critical mineral supply chains, battery research and recycling, grid resiliency, hydrogen energy production, and so much more. And it's also why I'm championing increased American manufacturing of semiconductors. Semiconductors are the building blocks of most electronic devices, including phones, cars, computers, and military technology. And if America lacks a reliable supply chain for these components, that means we're vulnerable and forced to rely on other countries. We're working in Congress to pass bipartisan legislation restoring our leadership in making semiconductors, because a strong domestic supply of semiconductors is central to the sustainable economy of the future. Earth Day is an important reminder of what we can achieve together. One last example. A few weeks ago, I hosted Interior Secretary Deb Haaland in Arizona to discuss sustainability, green energy, and how we can move Arizona into the future, like with the Rio Reimagine project, where innovative solutions are being discussed around water security, renewable energy, and sustainability. Thank you all again for your work creating a more sustainable and resilient Arizona. And I'll keep working across the aisle, fighting for common sense policies, supporting the great work you all do.
everyone, and welcome back to Green Living and Gensler's Earth Day Summit. I'm your host, Carol Kahn. We're coming to you from the Earth Day Summit, and it is our first, and hope with many more to come. And I am so excited to introduce to you to Mayor Gallego from the City of Phoenix, who is with us and who just finished her keynote address. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much. Big fan of Green Living.
Awesome, thank you. It's good to hear. And for participating and doing the keynote. So I was listening, and there was some very interesting topics of conversation, and even some new material that you can use, I think, for comedy, if she needs it. But some of the topic that we talked about today in her keynote address, the Q&A was bringing up some of the water issues that we have to deal with in this particular state. And Barry Goldwater.
So I, for the first time, ever got asked about a public policy solution where we'd all shower together. That was a first. I thought I had heard everything, but that was a first for me. I told him I think of myself as very progressive, but I'm not quite ready to go there yet.
So communal showers to save water. It's not a bad idea, though. But I don't think I'm ready for that
now
either.
I've heard everything, yeah.
I know. So Mayor, tell me, because I know that your goal is to make Phoenix one of the most sustainable cities in the country. And what is your platform? Like, how do you plan on doing that? What are some measures that you have in place right now?
We really hope to be the kind of city that innovates and leads the way on solutions. Heat is at the top of our list of issues we might be able to address, and we've tried a variety of different programs since we last spoke with Green Living. We're doing a Cool Corridors program where we plant about 200 trees at a time in areas that have a lot of students, a lot of people walking, lower income communities. We've launched a Cool Pavement program where we put a lighter colored coating on our pavement, and ASU has found reduces the surface temperature about 10 degrees. We're looking at integrating solar in our buildings, and more and more often you can park under a solar canopy. In some cases, even electric vehicle charging is part of that. So we hope we have green buildings, green spaces. Phoenix has more acres of park than any other city in the United States, which is a real point of pride for us.
Yeah, so you talked about the solar panels. I actually saw that just recently with the new innovation that actually cools the cars, because the temperature is here, especially in Phoenix, can get up to 122, even higher, right, in some instances. And so to constantly cool down things, you have to be on the top of innovations. So how do you find out about all these things that are being present? Like, how do you keep up with all of it?
So we have an Office of Heat Response and Mitigation that we hope will really be a focal point for cool companies or innovators who have solutions. The nice thing about Phoenix is now we have one point you can go if you want to pitch us a technology, try something new. That is really focused on heat. If you have other more broad solutions, we also have an Office of Innovation generally for this city. We're really proud of some of the things we've done on circular economy. So things that used to go into our landfill are now becoming the products of the future. I think we're the only city I know about that has worked to have an incubator for circular economy companies. We did that in partnership with ASU, our Risen incubator, and that's also been a great tool for us to support very smart people in this community with bringing a product to market that will make our city better.
Yeah, it seems like, when I look at Phoenix, I live in Sedona, and, and even in Flagstaff, they basically have called a state of emergency for climate control, basically, in each of those cities, and they're growing the sustainability departments in each of those. Flagstaff is much further ahead than Sedona. Sedona has been doing that in the last couple of years. But it seems like that you and in the city of Phoenix have been completely more progressive than most cities in the state. What do you have to attribute that to?
It's something that is very important to our voters. We have a love for technologies like solar. We have people who come to our community because of the environment. So having more acres of parks than any other city is a real economic development tool for us. People love the outdoors, and they love having that in their backyard in many cases. So I think that's attracted a lot of voters who are interested in sustainability. We're also home to Arizona State University, and that is a university that sustainability is at the forefront, and a very high risk tolerance, willingness to do something no one's done before.
Yeah, so you're talking about everything that's in the state of Arizona or in the area of Phoenix, but you actually went to COP26, which kind of sets you really apart from most people, because now you get to hear from world leaders as far as what everybody's doing. How was that so important to you? What was your takeaway from all of that? And how, if anything, did you implement things from what you learned going there to find out?
So I had two primary goals in going. One was to learn as much as possible, and then the second was to really share what we're doing. In Phoenix, we are global leaders, and we need to tell that story. I serve as the North American Vice Chair of an organization called C40, which is a global group of mayors representing about a quarter of the economy. Mayors from, our chair is from London, but Bogota and Colombia. We all met in London and took a train, electric train, to Glasgow, and I was seated between the mayor of Paris and the mayor of Freetown in Sierra Leone, so really covering the huge diversity of cities. And Freetown also has an Office of Heat Response, as does Athens, Greece, so we've all shared ideas about how to work together. We also introduce each other to philanthropic partners who want to work with us, and great innovative companies. So we've had companies locate in Phoenix who we met as part of that delegation, and we've also just kicked off an amazing nonprofit partnership with American Forests that are helping us plant hundreds and hundreds of trees, and that began in Glasgow as well.
Awesome. And how do you feel like that we're progressing even as a state? Do you feel like that we still have a long road ahead, or do you feel like everything is moving at a pretty well pace?
So this will not come as a surprise coming from a mayor, but I feel like cities are leading the way. Different cities are doing amazing things throughout Arizona, and I would love to see more support. So Phoenix just updated our climate action plan. We would love to see the state of Arizona do something in that area. Unfortunately, sometimes they're going in a different direction on climate change issues, but private sector, philanthropy, and cities are doing a lot.
Awesome. Well, we're so grateful to have you here. Thank you for leading the cause and moving everything forward, and also just, to acknowledge that and participate in world events and bring that back to us so that we can learn from others as well as yourself. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. Happy Earth Day.
Yes. And we will be back with more from the Gensler Green Living Summit after this. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Green Living Gensler Earth Day Summit. I'm your host, Carol Kahn. We are talking with thought leaders, politicians, anybody really in the state of Arizona right now who has to do with sustainability. It's our first annual Earth Day Summit with more to come, I guarantee it, because we are having such an amazing day. The speakers and even the audience talking about sustainability in our state and things that we could do to save our planet. And joining me now is
Stephen Rowe Lewis. I'm the current governor of the Gila River Indian Community.
Awesome. It's so great to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
Have you been listening in on what's happening, or did you just walk in the door and I just grabbed you?
A little bit of both. I heard some great discussion about water, about some innovative practices, and I think we're really at a point where we're looking at very innovative practices that are going to guide us toward our sustainability goals, not just for the city of Phoenix and for the surrounding communities, but for the Arizona and for the region. Because water and climate change, that truly affects us, and it truly should unite us on our approaches to the future.
Yes. So let me ask you this, because I live in Sedona, And I've asked this question to someone else earlier because she was also from the Navajo Nation. But to me, land, especially in Sedona, and water is very sacred. And people don't get that. So how, like, especially with what, you've grown up with, to me, it's like, how do you communicate to people to say, like, you really need to honor our Mother Earth and our land, just like it's been done in the past?
Yes, well said. Water is life. What we call in our Gila River Indian community, our language, our O'odham language, we call it our Shudug. And our namesake is the Gila River. The Gila River Indian community, that's in our culture and tradition, to be caretakers and good stewards of the land and of the water. Now, my father, the late Rod Lewis, he passed away 4 years ago. He was a visionary attorney, fought for our water rights back, which culminated in the 2004 Arizona water settlement, largest water settlement in U.S. history at the time. Gila River, we have significant water rights to the Gila River as well as the Colorado River. So we're looking at ways where we can be good stewards of a water. We're in a mega drought. Hydrologists tell us that it's the worst drought in over 1,200 years. So we've always been innovative. We trace our lineage historically to the Hohokam civilization. As you know, the Hohokam, they farmed and they built sophisticated canal systems all throughout the southern Arizona, specifically the Phoenix area as well. In fact, a lot of the current canal systems are built on the footprint of the Hohokam. And so we proudly acknowledge and honor that history as we look at ways to be innovative in the future as well. Looking at ways where we can build modern water delivery systems. We line them with cement, so we make sure that there's no loss of water when our water is transported throughout our community. So we feel that we have to be a moral leader in this struggle to respect water. I just told our community in a video message about Earth Day, that is ingrained in our DNA. And we have a moral imperative to be leaders, to show best practices. And so we're doing that through our agriculture, we're doing that through our water management, we're storing water in naturally occurring aquifers, recharging water. And so we're looking at ways where we can just be a best practice, and not only to tribes, but also to all of Arizona and the region.
Yeah, well, thank you. Kudos to that. I mean, seriously, I get it. I understand. Like, water is very sacred, and when I think about ways in which people are kind of, like, some people were talking about like a pipeline and all that kind of stuff. It just brought me to like the Dakota pipeline, and even that, how that land was destroyed and their water was destroyed, and it didn't seem like anybody really got it. I mean, outside of that. And that was very upsetting to see something like that. So even though we're dealing with, instead of like petroleum, but now we're dealing with water, which is our natural resource, I hope people get it. And that's sort of the message that we're trying to deliver today. And kudos to you for participating in that.
No, thank you. We have been, when I talk about the Hohokam, where the civilization that built these canal systems that rival those in the Nile Valley that the Egyptians constructed. Mm-hmm. And so we have been innovators from time immemorial. And when we are given the opportunity to tell our story, not have our story told about us, but for us to tell our story, for us to be at the table and to be at events like this, and we can bring solutions. We can bring innovation, especially now with our culture and our tradition, and meld both the modern technology, but also with our sacred teachings and our cultures. That is a very powerful mix, and I think that is exactly what's needed at this historic moment.
Yes, I applaud you for that. And talking about agriculture, I know I was just watching a movie recently about how the farming is even destroying our lands and partaking in our climate with the climate change. So, what are some things that are actually different on native land that you're doing that's very different?
Well, we were proud to really pioneer Pima cotton as well. That was a partnership with the University of Arizona. We are looking at ways where we can bring back a lot of our traditional crops, the tepary bean, which is a drought-resistant, very high protein. Some of these are traditional plants and beans and squash and corn as well. And so, bringing that back, and we have the Ramona Farms, and they have literally that farm and that family in our community. They brought back these traditional indigenous grains and seeds, and so now they are a booming niche farm where they provide tepary beans and salads, both in high-end Los Angeles restaurants, and you said you're from the East Coast, as well as far as New York, and very gourmet restaurants as well. So it's like these type of opportunities, really exciting successes that we want to build on, that we want to really transform our agricultural heritage, farm-to-table opportunities in our restaurants as well. We cultivate our own produce, and they're being served in our restaurants in our Sheraton. The Kai, I don't know if you've ever been to the Kai. It's one of it's the only 5-star, 4-diamond restaurant in Arizona as well. It's in the Sheraton Wild Horse Pass. So we're very proud of these type of examples.
Definitely have to go there. Do you feel like that you have met with open arms, or do you feel like progress, you still have to make a lot of progress to get people to see what you're all about?
I think we do. We have to make a lot of progress in our history, in the tie to the first peoples of Arizona, especially. We have so much history and culture here, and it should be taught more in schools. It should be, it should be really common knowledge for any Arizonan, just the richness of native cultures and history, and so I think that helps. For tribes to be at the table and to make decisions with our fellow leaders, whether they be mayors or a congressional delegation or with the state of Arizona, we love to bring solutions to hard, very, I think, multi-dimensional, very time-sensitive issues. And this is one of those right now in regards to water, drought, how best that we can work on public policy initiatives, that can really resonate with our public as well, because now is the time to really have a strong public campaign to all of Arizonans that water is sacred, that water should not be wasted, and it should be conserved, and there are ways to do that, and I think that would be a very common sense approach, especially now.
Thank you. Well, I feel like an article is coming along from Green Living magazine, so we'll be doing an interview with you. So thank you so much, Governor, for being with us, and thank you for participating and being here at the summit today. It's been a great pleasure.
Well, thank you, and again, happy Earth Day.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And we will be back with more from the Green Living and Gensler Earth Day Summit after this. And welcome back to Green Living and Gensler's Earth Day Summit. I'm your host, Carol Kahn. It is such a pleasure to bring you today all interviews from thought leaders, politicians from around Arizona, and to hear what people are doing in our state to deal with sustainability. And joining me now is the mayor of Scottsdale. How are you?
Terrific, Carol. Thank you for having me.
It's so good to have you here and participate in our Earth Day Summit.
Wow, terrific. Well, the Earth Day is not just one day, obviously.
Thank you.
And we're coming off a wonderful winter season, and everyone knows this beautiful spring and winter that we have in Arizona, and we're coming into the true summer and all of the realities of Arizona, as well as some of our challenges.
So what are some of those challenges that you have to deal with?
Well, as mayor, and I happen to be the 12th mayor of Scottsdale, I am an architect, and I'm generally, aware of client relations and discussions and community input, and what the Scottsdale community expects is high design standards, certainly efficient government, and as mayor, I am used to spending clients' money, right, for investments and properties and so forth, and it's a great responsibility that now is tightening up, especially after COVID. So we had the worldwide experience of displacement and lots of other challenges, and Scottsdale actually fared pretty well through that. Many people were, including our local government, were looking for solutions that are also applicable as we roll out of COVID. I'll give you an example of that, for instance, right? Because we closed our direct human services, we then went to delivery of medicines and food, and both to school children as well as seniors and others. We have a high demand, I call it a high maintenance. Scottsdale's pretty high maintenance, right? We've got...
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, what do you think? But we're very good with delivering value, which we're accustomed to doing and which we're accustomed to expecting. So we want to maintain four things. One is our beauty. We're a beautiful city. We're clean. That takes a lot of work, maintenance, and so forth. We're safe, so that's the public safety and really community policing that we need to have. And then we're all about wellness. So personal wellness, neighborhood wellness, and sustaining, business prosperity and so forth. That's the values and the attributes that I work on. When something endangers those areas, right? Either we have a water crisis that's occurring right now, and we're pretty innovative in coming on to that problem, and then making sure that we're a safe city and so forth. I'd be glad to go into some other sustainability areas if you'd like.
Well, I was getting ready to ask you too, water is a huge issue, but you brought up a good point too about sustainability. Everybody thinks sustainability could either be the weather, the climate change, water, or recycling, that's kind of sustainable, and those are things that we deal with. But you also spoke about wellness, which that's also part of that we have to be sustainable. So the word sustainable, which I guarantee you, if you and I walked outside to ask people what sustainability means, people don't get, they may just say, oh, it has to do with pollution, or it has to do with garbage or something like that. So what does that mean for you?
Well, wellness is holistic. For instance, we need all of the therapies, right? We need nature therapy. We have the Desert Preserve and that opportunity to go through 150 miles of natural desert that we protect and so forth. We have wellness so that the schools and the city have safe pathways and so forth. So after a while, these things are built in and into the way the city's planned, and it becomes less of an obstacle, but it's something that has to be, by being sustainable, it also becomes so day to day that it's comfortable and you feel like you're safe in Scottsdale. You feel a good sense of walkability, or those parts are what we're made of as human beings. You know you're in Scottsdale. We happen to have twice the area, square footage of parks, for instance, than any other city in the valley. Well, that's noticeable, right? And at the same time, we also have twice the shopping, so we take care of the shopping therapy, right?
That's all for wellness.
And the sports therapy, because we have beautiful, sports fields that kids can enjoy. We have the resort lifestyle. But most of all I like is, because I've been in Old Town for over 40 years as, an architect, and I've designed 20 or 25 buildings in Old Town. Why you have a sense of Scottsdale that's really upholds, I think, what you expect. And that takes some effort, right? Because there's pressure to blade some areas, yet at the same time, the renewal can be at the right scale that makes everyone, that builds on itself. I love the question, because sustainability means so many things to different people.
Right.
Another thing that happened, of course, with COVID is so many of the small businesses I know were figuring it out. They were rebranding. They were doing, during the downtime, they were working on solutions. You probably found that too in your magazine and how innovative people were. Right? I think going from hard copy to digital and, other ways, right? We're always improving.
Yes. Well, it is so awesome. Thank you for being with us today and being part of our Earth Day Summit. And Earth Day is every day, right?
Yes.
So that means you need to wear your love belt more often.
Right, and I don't think that's on film, but
that didn't sound right either.
What's happening is, and I did want to close about water, because water is vital. Scottsdale is the only city in Arizona that takes wastewater, completely reprocesses it into potable water, period. We're the only city that does that. Phoenix, Tempe, they don't. So they discharge water after they treat it, or they treat the wastewater. We're only the third city in the country that does that. So what that means is you buy it once, let it be used, and reprocess it, process it again. That's very responsible. We're the only city that does that. And in that way, again, we're pretty innovative. And I'd invite you at any time to come and see our facilities. Please join us at the Civic Mall. We're renovating it for the Super Bowl, but actually for everyone to enjoy our venues.
Oh, yes, I heard about that. I definitely will have to participate in that.
And I love turquoise.
Thank you.
You're very lovely.
Thank you. I do too.
Yay, thank you.
I will definitely take you up on your offer, so thank you so much. And I appreciate you being here today.
Thanks, Carol.
Yeah. And thank you so much. We will be back with more from Green Living and Gensler Earth Day Summit after this. Welcome to Green Living and Gensler's Earth Day Summit. I'm your host, Carol Kahn, and we are having such an exciting Earth Day today with this summit. We have thought leaders, politicians, business people, Q&As, everybody who's really interested in sustainability, how can we take action and move forward. This is going to be the one of many summits that we look forward to having, especially at Green Living Magazine. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the Mayor of Mesa.
John Giles, thank you.
He did that so well in the intro, I just had to have him do it again.
Thank you. It's going to go downhill from here, I'm afraid.
I don't think so.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit, this is Earth Day, and we are doing the Sustainability Summit. So tell me, how is this important, do you think, moving forward?
Well, this is, it's hard to think of something more important, right? I mean, I'm grateful for Earth Day and the opportunity it gives us to focus attention on this issue. I think, certainly as a community, the city of Mesa is very engaged on the topic. I'm proud to say that a little over a year ago, we adopted a climate action plan. More proud to say that we're actually trying to implement that climate action plan. It's something that has been integrated into all of the departments in our organization. It's something we're anxious to take to the community as a whole, to engage our residents. That's the only way it's really going to be impactful. And so I'm grateful for this conference. I'm grateful for this set-aside day that we have to focus our attention on one of the most important topics we could gather to talk about.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, because I think from a city level, right, the sustainability throughout the state of Arizona, actually, cities are implementing sustainability departments, looking towards climate and figuring out basically what it is to do. The lay person, though, the residents, even like asking them, hey, do you know like what sustainability or what your city is doing? People seem to be clueless.
Absolutely. So the climate action plan that we implemented is it has got 4 components to it. What I would argue maybe the most important element to that is our 4th element, which is to engage with the community, for this to be a plan that comes from the community, by the community for the community. The city is obviously a large organization. We have the ability to be pretty impactful. We're a large utility. We have a large fleet. We operate recycling or programs and solid waste programs. So absolutely, the city, standing alone, can be very impactful on this topic. But to really move the needle in the way that we have to accomplish these goals, it has to be something that's integrated into the neighborhoods and homes of our community.
Well, and Mesa is one of the fastest growing communities in Arizona, so how are you keeping up?
Well, it's obviously a challenge to keep up in any way at all, but some of the things that we're doing as a community, like I mentioned earlier, that we're a large utility provider. And we're one of the steps that we're taking to implement our climate action plan in that arena is we have 155,000 utility customers. We're switching all of those customers over to smart meters. That's going to have a very substantial impact. We operate a large fleet of vehicles. I'm proud to say that we're anxiously awaiting the arrival of the first in the United States all-electric fire truck. It's going to be very cool. We're also very shortly we'll receive our first 30 F-150 Lightning pickup trucks as we work to transition our fleet to an electric vehicle fleet. Oddly enough, wastewater is an area that we are very engaged in from a sustainability point of view. We've got pilot programs going with ASU to capture the carbon that is released during wastewater treatment. We're doing a lot of recharge of our wastewater, and also one of the bigger projects we're involved in now is about a $90 to $100 million project to pipe our effluent out to the Gila River Indian community so that they can use that for agricultural purposes. Yeah. So again, this is something we take seriously. I'm very proud of it, and I'm really looking forward to being able to talk about the measurable results that we're going to achieve.
I love that. And the other thing that I love is ASU. Kudos to them. I want to say congratulations to ASU for taking the initiative and taking the steps, because it's not just one step here and one step there. The whole entire university is, having sustainable programs. They have a sustainable art gallery. I mean, it just keeps going on with what it is that they can do, and they're really at the forefront of this.
They've been a great partner for us. We've learned a lot from partnering with them. Every day when I look out the window of the mayor's office, I look at a brand new building that we're constructing as a partnership with ASU for their new film school. And right now the cranes are loading all of the solar panels on top of that building. It's really fun to see, and it's kind of provoked us as a community to say, well, we don't want to look like the losers next to this energy efficient green building. So we're adding a lot of solar panels to the parking area and to the city buildings around that building.
That's awesome. When you look around at the state of Arizona, do you feel like that you're definitely, because I know we talked to the mayor of Phoenix already, she's like, 20 steps ahead. Kudos to her for doing all of that. Do you feel like that you are like steps behind her, right next to her? How do you feel?
I don't want to embarrass my friend Kate, but I remember a few months ago, we were sitting next to each other in a meeting, and she was telling me how envious she was of our climate action plan, because the goals that we're implementing are, like I say, it's not a competition, but our climate action goals are the same or better than Phoenix's.
It's a little bit of a competition.
Yes, I say that with all the love and respect in my heart.
Exactly, but that's what I love about all of you. It's just like one step is ahead, one person's a little bit further, but it's good to see that you're right there with her.
Yeah, you're right. Competition is a good thing if it provokes you to do good things, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. Well, Mayor, it's such a pleasure to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for participating and for all your efforts that you're doing for Mesa, the city of Mesa. So it's great.
My pleasure, and happy Earth Day. And hopefully, like I say, this is something that becomes part of our culture, and we celebrate it enthusiastically every year, and we talk about what results we've achieved over the last year.
Exactly, and every day is Earth Day.
Yeah, think globally, act locally, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly. I love you for that. And we will be back with more from Green Living Magazine and Gensler Earth Day Summit after this. And welcome back to Green Living and Gensler's Earth Day Summit. I'm your host, Carol Kahn. We have been having such an exciting day with thought leaders, politicians, mover and shakers, businesses. Everybody is getting into the conversation in the next room right over there about sustainability, and also because today is Earth Day, but as you know, every day is Earth Day. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Tracy Chung with
Cruise.
And Tracy was just on a panel discussion that we just had. Establish a little bit about Cruise and what that is.
Yeah, so Cruise is a self-driving technology company, and we have autonomous fleets, or AVs, in San Francisco and Phoenix. And we are doing a mix of rideshare and grocery delivery in partnership with Walmart.
And all the vehicles are electric?
All of the vehicles are electric. We are the only AV company that has an 100% all-electric fleet.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Exciting.
It's exciting. We're really proud of it.
So who came first, San Francisco or Phoenix?
Oh, that precedes my time at the company. I think it was San Francisco, and then we expanded pretty quickly to Phoenix after.
Yeah. Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix is the place to be.
For this conversation,
right?
It's Phoenix.
Yeah. It's so fun. We love what we're doing out here.
That's awesome. So, talk a little bit about the panel discussion. You just came off of that. What's your take on what transpired?
Yeah, the panel was great. It was so nice to talk with Steve and Denise and Cheryl about what's happening in this space. And we talked a lot about like the leadership change that needs to happen, and that just maybe change isn't the right word, but sort of the commitment that needs to happen in sustainability, public-private partnerships, policy change that's needed. All of that takes a lot of leadership. And so it was kind of fun to have that discussion and hear more about what's happening in various industries.
Yeah, that takes a lot of leadership, but it also takes a lot of time, right?
Yes, yeah, which is time we don't necessarily have a lot of right now, right?
Exactly. I get impatient. So I get really impatient because, like, if there's an idea, like, I want to see, like, what's taking so long?
Yeah, it feels like we've been talking about this for so long. Something needs to happen, right?
Yeah.
And so I think some of the cool stuff hearing about in the panel is that change is happening. And, that's transportation electrification, that's how, companies are thinking about building in Phoenix. I don't live here, so I don't don't know all of the topics, but hearing about the water and like heat issues that are happening and the changes that are actually happening in building practices is really, really interesting.
It is really interesting, and it's funny because I live in Sedona, so Sedona is like an hour and a half, 2 hours, so it's cooler in Sedona than it is here in Scottsdale. So Scottsdale is like 120, and it might be 100 in Sedona, so it's a 20-degree difference in the summer. But the interesting thing is like hearing, if you live in Scottsdale, how they have to deal with the heat and the shading and, protecting the land and cooling it down. And so I found that pretty fascinating about today. That's kind of like my takeaway too about like what's happening, because you don't think about these things, right?
Yeah, and I think one of my takeaways from today is how much climate change is like, it's a national, it's a global topic, but it's really, really local in scope as well, right? Like it changes locally. Like in California, we talk a little bit about water, there's drought, but not to the same sort of magnitude that the conversations are happening here in Phoenix. And obviously heat isn't really an issue for us in San Francisco. It is in other parts of California, but it's just the types of solutions that are needed are very, very specific to the locations and the cities and towns that are being impacted.
Yeah, Tracy, tell me this, because I feel like sometimes, like when I look at California, the whole state, I feel like the state is more progressive in, like taking care of the environment or doing anything in sustainability. I feel like they're always ahead of the game, even dealing with electric vehicles and stuff like that, or dealing with, gas issues when, and buying like hybrid cars.
Right.
I mean, so they're always like, they always take that step, I think, first to be like initiative. What is your feelings living in this state?
Yeah, I like seeing it, right? I think one of the greatest things about living in California is that as a populace, people are pretty much on the same page in terms of where we need to go. And so I think California can drive a lot of these conversations around climate because there isn't a lot of discord on it, if you know what I mean. Yes. And so everyone is moving towards the same goals and is supportive of those goals, whereas in other places that might not be the case.
Right, right. And for your company, in particular company, what's next? Like, what are some things that you are looking to do to expand?
Expand the company itself?
Yeah.
Well, we are in the early stages of commercialization. So we have a partnership here with Walmart in the Phoenix area. And we started with one store where we were doing grocery delivery, and now we're at 2. And we're just expanding the number of stores that we service for Walmart. So that's something exciting that's happening here in Phoenix. In California, we actually just launched our first completely driverless AV with no one in the car. And so our next step is to just get that up and running and operate that business and see it scale.
What is that like, to see a vehicle with no one in it?
Oh, it's really surreal. And I tell all my friends and family that like riding in a driverless AV is simultaneously the most exciting and amazing thing you'll ever experience, at the same time that it's the most boring ride that you will ever take. And so it's really fun. If you ever get a chance to go out to SF, I highly encourage you to take one of those. I mean, you can do it here in Phoenix through Waymo, but it's different, I think, when you're in like a really urban environment, and seeing how it works is just amazing.
It's interesting you said that. A friend of mine has a Tesla, right? Okay. So I drove in the back. I was in the back seat, sitting in the back seat while the couple they were driving the car, and they put it in automatic.
Oh wow.
Okay, so the thing is, it's exhilarating, just like you said, right? Because you're looking at a car that's driving by itself pretty much, and then on the other side of that, I'm like, is it going to brake? Like, is it going to be able to turn the curve, or like what? Yeah. So you're right, it's a little bit of both for me. Just a little scary sometimes too.
I agree.
You're relying on, a whole hunk of metal, hoping that it's going to stop.
Yeah. And luckily we've seen that that's the case.
Yes.
But yeah, it's been a pretty fun ride to see it all happening.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being part of our Earth Day Summit and participating in the panel discussion.
Oh, you're welcome. This was a lot of fun.
It's been amazing to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. And we will be back with more from the Green Living Gensler Earth Day Summit after this. welcome to Green Living and Gensler's Earth Day Summit. I'm your host, Carol Kahn. We are coming to you from the Earth Day Summit that is happening right next door, and we have a whole list of business people, politicians, thought leaders talking about sustainability and ways to save our planet. It's been such an exciting morning and afternoon actually, and so we're just really excited to be here and also to introduce to you Steve McLean with your company.
Strategic Microgrid.
Strategic Microgrid. If I could say that would be really good.
Hard to get out, yeah.
So thank you for being with us. Now, have you been part of the panel discussion?
Yes, I was on a panel that talked about sustainability, and thank you, by the way, for interviewing me. I appreciate it very much.
They're paying now. They're paying me for this.
Yeah.
No, they're not. No, it's so great to have you. So tell me a little bit about the panel and what is your takeaway on what's been happening so far today?
Well, I commend Gensler, number one, and then the other, your magazine and the other principals that have been involved in putting this seminar together today. I think it's very important to create more understanding about the issues of sustainability, climate change, and environmental degradation. The panel that I participated in talked about those issues, and both on a local level and as well as a state and a national level, and some of the things that that need to happen to be able to address some of these issues and these problems.
Now, talk to me a little bit about your particular company, because that is actually in the forefront of what's happening. I mean, you're dealing with solar panels, for example, which that's not necessarily new, but the technology that you're using it for is new.
Yeah, that's correct. We build engineered systems, we call them, that create an environment that protects assets and people and creates pleasing and pleasant indoor-outdoor environments, as well as generates renewable energy, and in this case it's solar energy. In the past, solar energy was produced by either placing panels on top of a roof or on the ground, or in a low-level parking area in a parking lot that just covered the cars. We took that idea and said we can create designs that will create an environment underneath the system that, in addition to producing the power and providing renewable power for those clients, whether they're in the public sector or the private sector, it also creates other cash flows and creates other value. And for example, in the retail business, we've done work for a large grocery chain, and the presence of our structures has actually attracted more customers, increased their market share, and increased their same-store sales. So that's a tremendous economic benefit. It's also a tremendous benefit for their customers, because now they can park in an area that's shaded and it's protected both day and night, so it's more secure. Their shoppers feel more secure than they do either being out in the open or underneath a low-level parking structure where there's a lot of shadows, things like that at night. So they feel much more secure. They tend to stay in the store longer and shop longer, and that translates into more business. And they also tend to become more loyal for a couple of reasons. One of them is a lot of customers now want to be associated with businesses that are thinking about climate change and doing things from a sustainability standpoint. And in addition to that, they also want to protect their assets. And a lot of shoppers usually have small children with them. You know, the last thing they want to do is get back into a hot car and expose their child to that. So there's a lot of benefits associated with that. And that's what our business model centers around, is that it's a great platform to not only do good from the standpoint of producing renewable energy and helping from that standpoint, but we can also engineer the systems, and so they do other things, like in most large metropolitan areas, and Phoenix is an example, heat island mitigation is a big problem. You know, it's a giant heat sink. So if we can design engineered structures that'll actually cool those parking lots, and we've been able to drop the temperatures, the radiant temperatures, by as much as 40 degrees at a parking lot.
That's significant. That's
Yeah,
pretty significant.
it is.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your background. How did you even get into this area?
Well, I've been in the energy business for quite a while, and my background really has been in construction and heavy civil industry and infrastructure since I graduated from college, pretty much. And I ended up in the renewable energy business because in the firm that I was a partner in prior to this that was acquired, we did a lot of work in traditional energy type work. We built transmission lines and distribution lines and substations, and we did a lot of large projects inside fossil fuel generating stations, for example, coal. We also did work inside of hydro and others. And when pretty early on, like back about 2005 or so, I began to investigate renewable energy. And so we began to do some projects in concentrated solar power systems at the time, which were different than PV. And that's how we developed our interest, and we saw that there was an opportunity there from a business standpoint, but we also saw there was probably an opportunity to do a lot of good too. Because one thing about that business is that you're in touch with a lot of people all the time. We had large crews, we employed 700-800 people. They come from all walks of life, but the one thing they have in common is they like to build things and they like to create things. And so it really gives you a sense of how important it is when you build something that's tangible like that, what contribution you're making,
Yeah, how much ahead of the 8 ball do you actually have to be, and how difficult is that to constantly be progressive and innovative and looking at ways to protect and save our environment?
Well, it's a very difficult thing to predict because the changes, I think, are occurring so rapidly now, it's very hard to stay ahead of it, let alone even keep up. I mean, if you just look at the temperature variations that have occurred over the last 5 or 10 years, they're far beyond what anyone in science predicted. And then on top of that, if you look at the catastrophic weather events we've had, those weren't predictable either, at least the way science is now. So it requires a lot of work and a lot of cooperation in order to be able to stay ahead of this. And in my opinion, and we talked about this on the panel, we're not on top of it yet. And it's going to take a much more strategic and coordinated approach in order to get on top of it.
Yeah, how do you feel about this? Because, when you look at what scientists are saying, and I know like cities, for example, they're giving deadlines, 2025, 2030. Seems like most cities are 2030, right? But scientists say that we have until 2060 max before our planet is a dust bowl. And some people think that that's alarming, and it's like, oh, that might not happen, just like, you watch in some of these movies. And then some people do feel like, no, we really need to pay attention, because just to your point, you said nobody really ever predicted that these kinds of things would happen. Yeah. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think, and I said this in the panel, that I think that the approach needs to be a little different. And the way I look at this is I don't look at it as much from a climate change standpoint as I look at it from the standpoint of environmental degradation. And I can think about and point to areas in my own life and places that I have either lived or been where I can see the environment has degraded significantly just in the last 10 years or so. And I think one of the things that the scientific evidence fails to convey, and it's not the scientific community's issue, it's really a leadership issue, is to really put that into a context that there is degradation taking place as opposed to putting it out in the future, because it's really hard to get people, even policymakers, to think about doing something that's going to make a difference 20 years or 30 years down the road. Most policymakers have a career, if they're in the bureaucratic side or the administrative side, they have a career that might last, on the average 15 years or so. The max maybe 35. So when you start talking about 2050 or so, that doesn't mean much to them. And then with elected officials, it's even more immediate, because, they have to get reelected every 2 to 6 years or 4 years. And so in my opinion, I think that the way to really get on top of that is to get cooperation to create the right kind of policies in order to stop what's happening that we can see right now today.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Thank you for sharing that with us. Sometimes I feel like, what comes first, the cart or the horse, right? Or whatever that saying is, something like that.
Yeah.
But, I think too many times, like even when you look at, trash and recycling, the unfortunate thing, like in most places, is that it all goes to the same place. And so, like you find recycling centers, actually nothing's being recycled. So, and this is not your area, I know, but just from an opinion and a conversation standpoint, you take a look at something like that, right? And so where does that have to start? Like at what level, at a city level, a state level, because we have to start initiating these things. Otherwise, the layperson or like a resident is not going to partake in it, in the situation, if all these things aren't laid out correctly.
Yeah, that's an excellent example. And I think for two reasons. One is this stuff is all interrelated. But number two, the recycling crisis is one that most of us that are our age have lived through and seen. In the last 10 years, we've seen the thing actually shut down, where the system's overwhelmed and it can't handle anymore. So like it can't handle any more plastic. We don't have the ability to recycle it. And the recycling that is being done isn't very effective. It doesn't really take it out of the system. It's still being built up. So that's an excellent example, I think.
Yeah, well, thank you to people like yourself who are creating and finding new ways to really save our planet and also the environment. So thank you for that.
Thanks. Appreciate it very much.
And thank you for participating on the panel, too.
Thank you. It's very nice to talk to you, too. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And we'll be back with more from Green Living Magazine and Gensler Earth Day Summit after this. And welcome back to Green Living and Gensler Earth Day Summit. I'm your host, Carol Kahn, and we have an exciting day planned that has been going on since noon today, and it's very exciting to hear from leaders, politicians, business people, even just people who are very curious to find out what our Earth Day Summit is all about. And basically, it's about sustainability and taking action. And this isn't going to be our first one. It is our first one, but we hope to continue further down the line in doing more of these because we're finding that this is a great start. So just like Earth Day, that's on one day, this is going to be multiple days. So Earth Day is every day. So we're going to be doing this and talk about it. That's what we do at Green Living Magazine anyway, is talk about this every single day. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you to Justin Owen. And Justin, tell us who you're with and tell us a little bit about.
Absolutely. So I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the McDowell-Sonoran Conservancy. So we are an organization dedicated to science, education, and stewardship of the Sonoran Desert. But most notably, we are also the champions and guardians of the McDowell-Sonoran Preserve in Scottsdale.
Awesome. That's beautiful. Yeah, we need that. We need people to protect our land. I mean, throughout Arizona, but kudos to you for participating in that.
Yeah, it's actually really amazing because a lot of people don't realize how much open space we have here. And the McDowell-Sonoran Preserve itself, which is, as I said, one of our primary functions, a lot of people don't realize it is the largest urban preserve in North America. And it's right here in the metropolitan Phoenix area. And a lot of people say, how can that be possible? What do you mean? How can we have that? And we like to remind people, well, it's an urban preserve. So a lot of preserves that you see are far away. You look at the Tonto National Forest, because it's huge, it's 3 million acres, but you have to drive to it. The great thing about the McDowell-Sonoran Preserve is it's something that if you're fortunate enough to live around it, you can walk to, or on your way to work, or on your way to see a friend, stop, get outside, enjoy open space. And really that's how we got our roots 31 years ago, was saving the McDowell Mountains. And now, as we've progressed and moved forward over the last few years and moving forward, of really educating people on how to be champions of open space as a whole. Not just if it's a place you want to go hike and have fun, but also how to be a champion and make the environment sustainable even in your own backyard. What are things that you can do at home? What are things that you can maybe help out in your own community, in your neighborhood? Those are the initiatives we're moving forward, but our flagship program is our stewardship program. So we have over 700 volunteers that help us take care of these open spaces. But then our education programs, which thanks to COVID, I don't know many people that get to say that, really had us rebirth and pivot and look at how we can reach a broader amount of our youth. And I'm happy to say our education programs, through people who are able to come out to us, and in addition, virtual opportunities that teachers can bring into the classroom, as well as our STEM education program that we take on the road to schools. We're probably going to impact more than 18,000 youth this year here in the Valley. And a lot of people say, okay, what are a couple reasons that's so cool? And one of them is because as adults, we know what's going on, but with kids and youth these days sometimes got their head down in their phone, in their iPad, they take it for granted. But we're not going to be here forever to take care of this place. We need to educate everyone on why it's so important from when they're younger. And by focusing in underrepresented populations and underserved areas, we're letting people know that there's more out there other than the concrete jungle. It's quite interesting. I tell people I don't think the kids lie on their surveys because they're third graders. But it was fascinating that 75% of our students had never been to the natural desert. And they live
here in Arizona. That's amazing.
And it's giving youth the opportunity to fall in love with it. So one of the things that we talk about in the nonprofit world is you support what you love and you love what you know. If you don't know about it, then you can't fall in love with it, and then you won't be supportive of it. So that next generation appreciating the need for open space, the need for caring for our environment, the need for being outside from a mental health perspective. Everyone always thinks the physical health.
Right.
But the mental health of being off the phone and just being outside, being able to experience this amazing, beautiful place that we live. And I know a lot of people like fun facts. So the Sonoran Desert is known around the world as being the most biologically diverse desert in the world. And a lot of people take it for granted. I know, I came from California. I live 10 minutes from the beach. If you ask me how many times I went to the beach, maybe once a year. But here, it is so diverse because we're the only desert in the world that has 2 rainy seasons, 2 heavy rainy seasons. So we all get to live in this magical, beautiful place. Let's take care of it. Let's make sure that we don't harm the ecosystem and make it a sustainable environment. That's why we're here today. We're here because the importance of the connectedness between everybody. It's all about collaboration. Not a single elected person, a policy change, a business, a nonprofit can make it happen, but collectively, we can make it happen. Collectively, we can make our environment, our planet, our ecosystem better. Because when you look at the changes that we're facing, without getting political, climate change is happening because of interferences in it. And quite often, humans are the largest interference. Yes. So how can we make it better and learn from the mistakes we made? And today is all about getting those collaborations together, getting the elected leaders to hear from the constituents that don't particularly have a specific interest, and then partnering with the business community who moves everything forward on the greater scale. Nonprofits step in where governments don't have the resources to do it, and collectively make not only Phoenix, but Arizona and where we live a better place for the future.
Yeah, I think it starts with an idea, a spark of an idea. That's why we're hoping with this summit also, because somebody could say something and initiate a change or an idea of something that they could be working on. But you bring up a good point about the desert, and I live in Sedona. So, one of the things that upsets me greatly is that when visitors come, they do not take care of Sedona as, like you said, we should be protecting our planet or protecting where we live. And to me, Sedona is very sacred. The land is sacred, but you have people trashing it. Even with some of the educational things that we try to teach people with, leave no trace, whatever you bring in, take out. It just doesn't seem like it registers with some people. They just feel like it's a liberty just to throw trash out on the trail or, in the water, diapers. I can't tell you the number of diapers that people leave behind. And it's really sad. It's really sad living in such a beautiful environment and then turning around and having people come and trash it. So do you deal with that, because where you are is so beautiful as well, do you have to deal with that on a daily basis?
It is. Education is our key. If we've learned anything as a society, enforcement generally doesn't work. Education works. I just recently got interested, I just got involved in the Blue Zones initiative, and it's fascinating what we learn when we can put nudges into our everyday life, when we put things that nudge us to do the right thing. So we work on education, but we also look on what are small changes people can make. So specifically in the McDowell Preserve, we had 1.2 million visits last year. And it was up substantially because it was pretty much the only thing to do during COVID was go outside. But what we see in the trash is a big problem. One of the initiatives we do as a nudge is twice a year, we do a dog poop flagging campaign. So everyone who doesn't pick up after their dog. And twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall, for a week, we take the little irrigation flags and put them out with every single place that an owner didn't pick up their dog poop. And the visual representation for everyone coming through of how much it's out there, because they think, oh, it's just one thing, it doesn't make a difference. It's just one straw, one diaper, to your point. When they see the volume, it moves mountains. One of the programs I hope we'll be able to launch someday that we were partnering with ASU is an artificial or augmented reality experience for the youth. So the concept being, to your point, if they just see one diaper or two diapers or one trash bag or something, they think, oh, it's not a big deal. But being able to have students look through, whether it's virtual reality or look through something that says, okay, this is what it looks like with 2, this is what it looks like with 20, this is what it looks like with 30, we're coming to them on their level to be able to see, oh, over a week, the amount of things that came out there instead of just the one. And we believe it's going to make a substantial difference in educating those future people, because re-educating some of us as we get older isn't as successful.
But where do you come up? I think that's such a great point. And I'm sitting here going, okay, now I need to go to Sedona. I'm going to go to Sedona and tell them we need to leave flags everywhere, clean up this mess. But you bring up a good point. But where do you actually come up with your ideas? Is it do you look at another city, another state, or do you just think of as far as education, this would make a really good point to bring home? So where did the ideas come from?
A lot of it's from our own stakeholder input. So we're fortunate that because we have 700 volunteers, we have more than 700 ideas. I'll tell you that, because we've had a lot of ideas. But it's through collaboration. It's through not just one or two people sitting down going, what can we do to change this? It's asking people, what do you think? What would be impactful to you? What would make a difference for you? I can tell you today, I was inspired to go meet with Mayor Gallego afterwards, because one of the things she brought up, which I'm sure because she's brilliant, she already knows this, but the Nature Conservancy did a massive project up near Flagstaff, up in northern Arizona, to convert farmland from high water use farmland to low water use farmland. And Mayor Gallego was saying Phoenix is one of the few cities that are metropolitan that still has a heavy agricultural presence. And we're talking about the water issues that are coming on. Have they gone to some of those agricultural operations and done like they did in Flagstaff and said, can we convert you to a lower use water crop? And in Flagstaff, it's been, up in northern Arizona, it's been brilliant. Their water use has gone down so much by changing from the agriculture they were doing to hops. And it took a private-public partnership. It was Pepsi. The Pepsi company invested in a hops processing facility up there, so it allowed the farmers to convert to farming hops, which requires a lot less water than what they were. And because of that, subsequently, humans now got a huge microbrewery pump up there in things that are happening. But those types of creative ideas and those types of partnerships are what makes it possible.
Yeah, you make such a great point, because in Camp Verde, they're converting their fields to barley.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing, and they're utilizing that for beer companies. So it's again another way of trying to make the land more sustainable. So that's a very, very good point.
Yeah, and the work that's being done, I know I can brag for a little bit about what we're doing, but even in the scientific research of being able to look at things over time, what's happening over time. So being intentional. A lot of nonprofits, not in a bad way, but they struggle with a lack of being able to collaborate because they're just keeping their heads down doing the work. But expanding the collaborations between organizations, combining with monitoring key things. So our organization shifted to monitoring key species. And people say, what are you talking about? And likely when I talk about our butterfly censuses, people are like, what are you doing counting butterflies? What kind of craziness is this? Well, it is proven that butterflies can be an extremely key indicator of precipitation in an ecosystem. So rather than having to monitor all of the species all of the time and seeing how they're doing, we're able to do butterfly census throughout the year that then tell us how much precipitation is in the ecosystem, so that then we can work with our partners, whether it's game and fish, whomever, to bring out more water for the entire ecosystem, and vice versa. We're looking at different native plant life to Arizona that maybe has a higher survivability rate in an ecosystem with less precipitation. So a lot of people are looking at restoration of how do we bring back what we had. Well, if our ecosystem's changed, how do we let something thrive in the ecosystem that's going to become? Mm-hmm. So instead of saying it's all going to turn brown and dirt, how do we intentionally make our ecosystem succeed? And whether it's through the plants or, like I said, the butterflies, it's fascinating. I never would have counted butterflies before I came here. But in an average year with good precipitation, we get 600 to 700 when we do our counts. If you remember a couple years ago when we had that super dry year, mm-hmm. our volunteers went out and documented 26.
Oh, wow.
When we should have had 600 to 700. So it's a huge indicator in it. And then last year when we had massive precipitation in one of our quarters, we went out and monitored 3,000. So we know resources can be dedicated to other places.
Yeah. Well, Justin, I love you. Thank you for doing this. And, you've heard about animal whisperers, but Justin's the butterfly counter.
I guess that's my thing. But yeah, I would encourage, if anyone wants information on what they can do at home, how they can get involved, to just check out the McDowell-Sonoran Conservancy's website, and we'll give you information. As well, we do over 150 free hikes and activities if anybody's interested.
Yes, and so I also feel a story is coming on for Green Living magazine.
I hope so.
So we're definitely going to have to meet up after this. But thank you so much for today. Thank you for being in the audience and listening, and thank you for contributing, because this has been a wealth of information that I'm all excited about. Now I'm going to go back to Sedona and say we need to do all these things.
You need your flags. You need to go to Home Depot and get the flags. I like it.
We'll do the flags.
Thank you.
And whisper to the butterflies.
Exactly.
Well, thank you. And we will be back with more from Green Living and Gensler's Earth Day Summit after this. everyone, and welcome back to the Green Living Gensler Earth Day Summit. I'm your host, Carol Kahn, and we've had such an exciting day. We're actually getting ready to wrap up in just a little while, but we could not do that before we interview the troublemaker. That's what he told me. The mayor of Tempe.
I go by many names. Yes, hi, Corey Woods, mayor of the city of Tempe, and just very excited to have just taken part of the panel here at Gensler, and just really excited to be part of this, especially on Earth Day.
Yeah, well, Earth Day is every day. You got to
Of
put
course,
that.
of course.
So, participating in the panel, tell us a little bit about what you've talked about today.
I think the main thing is that Maricopa County is the fastest growing county in the entire country, and it's not an option to pursue sustainability goals and climate justice and resilience. It's something that we absolutely have to do because as more people continue to come here, we have to be able to control our greenhouse gas emissions. We should be talking about ways to electrify our vehicle fleets internally at the city of Tempe and in other cities. We have a great time now to frankly talk to people about converting to personal electric vehicles given the cost of gas right now in this country. There are a lot of people who are beginning to talk about now getting electric vehicles and hybrids because it frankly makes more financial sense. So I think that the big thing I was trying to push on the panel was this is no longer a choice. It never was a choice, but I think people are coming to that realization now that it's up to all of us to act. And it's up to all the people in positions like mine as policymakers to make sure that we're pushing these things through and showing real leadership during these times.
Yeah, so, okay, I'm being a conspiracy theorist here.
Sure.
So just bear with me.
A good conspiracy every now and then.
So typically with gas prices, the way that it's rising, I know it's a global issue right now as well. But do you think sometimes that these things occur in order to push the public for all of us to start like really looking at like EVs and electric vehicles and all of that kind of stuff?
I don't think necessarily. I mean, I do believe that gas prices aren't controlled by the president or even Congress. I mean, there are like lots of geopolitical things that are happening right now that are really contributing to gas prices spiking the way that they currently have. I know that the president's talked about finding ways to, release some of the additional reserves to see if we can relieve some of that pressure on consumer gas prices. But as a famous elected official once said, never let a crisis go to waste. And if you are in a situation where these things are going on and we don't have that kind of control, things that people might have been somewhat resistant to before, they might be far more open to now. Because I just filled up my car before I came here. 89 octane gas. I've got a Chrysler 300S, $92. And I'm probably doing that at least once a week. And I'm fortunate that I don't drive as much as I used to because I live in downtown Tempe now and I'm able to get around on foot. But in some of my previous occupations, I would have been filling up my gas tank probably at least twice a week. That's almost $200 a week just to keep my car on the road. So while I don't think there's any conspiracy as to why gas prices are spiking, I do think we need to take advantage of this moment and talk to people about things we should have frankly been doing anyway.
Right. Yay. I love you too. Spoken like a true politician, but I love you.
You said I was the troublemaker.
You said everything I needed to hear. But
I love it. I love
it. So that is great. How do you stay in front of the curve?
I think it's regularly meeting with people who are experts in this area. I mean, I know enough to make policy and to frankly be informed about the issue, but we have true sustainability experts at the city of Tempe and around the valley. Dr. Braden Kay, Brianne Fisher at the city of Tempe. They're the people who really manage our climate justice and sustainability programs, all the electric vehicle charging. And so for me personally, it's staying connected to them, but it's also having conversations with our Sustainability Commission, which is a group of residents that's appointed by the mayor, who also are experts in this area. It's making sure that I am constantly staying connected to them and the new technologies and all of the science and the data that's available. And that's what really helps to inform me as a policymaker. It's not relying just on my own gut instincts, but frankly leaning on the people around me who have a ton of knowledge in this area and can help to move our city forward.
Yeah. And what do you think about the Earth Day event so far?
It's amazing. This is great. I mean, honestly, this first time not that I've been in this room, but the first time I've been here for an Earth Day event here, and it's fantastic. I look forward to 2023.
Yay.
Yeah.
Right on. I like you already.
I like you too.
You heard it here.
See?
Troublemaker.
Troublemakers unite.
Exactly. Well, Corey, thank you so much for being with us
Thank
today.
you.
Really, I look forward to seeing you hopefully before 2023.
You got it. Sounds good. Look forward to being here and just appreciate the opportunity to join you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with more from Green Living Magazine and Gensler Earth Day Summit after this. Everyone, and welcome back to Green Living Magazine and Gensler Earth Day Summit. I'm your host, Carol Kahn. We are coming to you from our Earth Day event, which is again just beginning to wrap up. And before we did that, we had to talk to our publisher of Green Living Magazine, Dori Morales, who is sitting right here with me. And it's such a pleasure to have you. I need to say, this was such an amazing event all day today. There's a lot of work that went into this from Dori and from Oscar, who will be here shortly. But thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for acknowledging that, and thank you for all of your work, because you've been at it all day talking to people and enjoying these amazing conversations. So thank you to you.
Well, I've learned a lot, and that's one of the things that I know you're in this daily with Green Living Magazine, and this is our mission, right, together, is that we want to protect our planet, not just on Earth Day, every day, and this is what your mission is with the publication and you yourself. So tell me a little bit about what transpired today and what you're most proud of.
I think just people making amazing connections, and we have to take action, and now we're talking about doing this on a quarterly basis where we get the right people to the table and we get the business people with the mayors and the governors and everyone, because the time is now. It's a climate emergency.
It's of essence, but I think you better talk to Mayor Woods, because I told him next year, so he's going to have to come back a lot sooner.
Yes. Well, even on a quarterly basis for cocktails, you know.
Yes.
Cocktails, coffee talk, lunch, whatever.
Yeah, any of those. I like the cocktails, definitely, because I'm going to need one after this.
No, not at all.
No, but what was your biggest takeaway from all the speakers today? Because I know I've learned a lot. And again, we do this every single day, but what was your biggest takeaway from what transpired?
I think that it is together that if everybody starts to care for the planet and we really engage the younger people, that it really makes a difference. And we really also have to look at our buildings and our built environment, because we need to start building differently, and we need to look at renewable energy, and we need to look at fossil fuel and everything together.
Yeah. I spoke with the governor of Gila and the Native American communities, and just amazing too. And that was one of the things that I've learned about too, that they're ready and willing to share with the rest of us and how to protect our sacred Mother Earth, really, and some of the things that they've initiated to do that. Everybody has really brought something to the table. There's definitely leaders in this group that are moving. I loved the mayor of Phoenix. She was just a spitfire. I'm so glad that, she's here in the state. We just had amazing people today, and putting this all together, it was a beautiful effort, and amazing leaders.
I think the thought leaders in each city is doing something, but if we all come together and the cities and the mayors come together, they can create climate action plans, because there are a lot of cities within Arizona that don't even have climate action plans.
Right.
And if they at least acknowledge, okay, there's an issue with water. Mm-hmm. There's an issue with urban heat islands, things like that. So,
all right, I'm not even going to ask you what's next for you, because I know I can't keep up.
Well, tomorrow, day 2 of the Earth Day, is what's next
It
for me.
continues. It just continues.
Quarterly. This on a
No,
quarterly
daily.
basis.
It's daily. It's daily.
Yes.
It continues.
We always have to raise the bar.
Yes.
That we need to have people join the tribe.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So I know this isn't our current issue. Don't kill me for this. But Green Living Magazine, Dori Morales, this is really, if you don't have this or have seen it, make sure that you do, because it's an amazing publication. I guess I could say that because I'm the editor, but
well, I hope you like it.
I like it. I do. I love it. Actually, I love my job. And yeah, so thank you for everything. Seriously, and especially not just today in this Earth Day event, but every day.
Every day is Earth Day.
I know. That's why I keep
Thank
telling
you.
everybody, right? I keep telling everybody it's Earth Day. I know. We're being yelled at to be quiet. But anyway, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for everything. I appreciate it. And we'll be back with more from the Green Living Gensler Earth Day event and wrap up after this. Hello everyone and welcome back to Green Living Gensler Earth Day Summit. I'm your host Carol Kahn. We have had such an amazing day today from all the speakers and thought leaders, business people. People just wanted to attend to see what was happening in sustainability and how we're going to take action and move the needle forward. I mean, we've had some amazing talks and discussions today. But you know, it would be remiss if I did not introduce you to someone who has worked extremely hard on this event, who is from Gensler, and it's Oscar de la Salles. And I didn't say it like you pronounce my name.
That's okay. I cannot pronounce your last name, but it comes with Oscar being Oscars. I'm sorry.
It is Oscar, and I love this man, and so proud of what he's put together today. Really, kudos to you for doing such an amazing event and being such a wonderful partner with Green Living Magazine.
First of all, thank you for hosting your media lounge for half of a day. So you've been like here behind doors interviewing all these very special speakers that we had today in a conversation about sustainability. And thank you to Dori Morales, publisher of the magazine, for giving us the opportunity to have a one-day conversation about sustainability from all fronts in the community. So thank you.
Yeah, no, and you know, Gensler played a really big part in this, and Gensler being a worldwide organization in architecture, it was just amazing to have the caliber of people that we had here today. And also going down to the politicians, we had several mayors here, business people. It's just such a wonderful, it was a wonderful way to spend Earth Day.
Yeah, so it's a big celebration, and I think this is the inaugural of all these conversations that we're going to have every year with Green Living Magazine, hopefully, about sustainability in Arizona. The idea that came very early with Dori Morales when we were just talking about sustainability, and we have had some editorials in your magazine that thank you for your collaboration with us to get them done and published. So there's always a conversation about sustainability. Everyone talks about it. So you read about it, you see it on TV, you can understand what is the basis of sustainability. But we have never encountered a moment and a time for all of us as a community in Arizona to have this conscious conversation with the right people in the right environment in the right day, right Earth Day. So it's a celebration of Mother Earth first and foremost, but it's also a celebration of our accomplishments for what we've done about sustainability, but also looking very detailed, like microscopic, city by city by city, in order to understand what the cities are doing, but also those companies that are coming to Arizona trying to bring sustainability products or sustainability ideas. So the people that are elected by all of us are able to listen to those bodies or those companies, and then the mayors telling to the audience who's listening what are they doing in each one of the municipalities. So this is kind of a conversation to gauge where we are. Next year, when you and I are here, we're going to go back 1 year back, and we're going to see if what we said is sustainable and sustained which is much more important. So we're able to calibrate or have an idea of where are we heading next year. So it's a series of conversations that have to happen on Earth Day. Has to happen on Earth Day.
Well, he succinctly said all of that, which is actually really beautiful and well done, I have to say, thank you. But, leaving it up to Dory thinks we're going to do this every quarter.
So actually, we just had a conversation. I just told her, this is not a bad idea of doing it every quarter, because if we leave the conversation hanging in the community and we don't look back, then we're going to let's say we're going to forget what we said, not only, but also we are not going to propel the conversations forward. So we were just talking on perhaps having cocktails quarterly. So like a conversation, even a coffee or a tea conversation over water, or having a glass of water, a conversation of how are we doing? How are you doing? How is your municipality doing? How can we collaborate? Who did you meet at this summit that needs to be in this conversation to propel this forward? You have had incredible people here. We had Yasamin Ansari, Councilwoman Yasamin Ansari.
I love her. Oh my God.
She's incredible.
Yes.
She's incredible.
Yes.
And then we had also Reese Taylor, which is our Director of Sustainability Global. So Yasamin Ansari brings her experience from the UN, as well as Reese Taylor in our company, number one company, design company in the world, that they are able to talk tete-a-tete, head ahead of what is happening around the world, and then use their experience and our experience to land those conversations in Arizona so we can propel ourselves forward in terms of sustainability. It's all a strategy, and it's all in this head. And I'm very happy that conversations with Dory Morales and that strategy, when I explained it to her, she said, let's do it. We are the magazine. I said, we are the company. Let's team up and produce this one-day summit.
Yes. And it's been an amazing partnership. Gensler, Green Living Magazine, has just been such gratitude that we've worked together with you.
Thank you.
So
thank you. It's a pleasure to all of us, and thank you for hosting. Thank you to the team, everyone who worked so hard to get this off the ground and celebrate Mother Earth and see what is the future of sustainability in Arizona.
Yes. So I want to second that. And Oscar, I want to thank our media team. I want to thank our Green Living team for all the hard work that they've done to put this together. I want to thank Gensler. I want to thank all of our sponsors, including Fry's, and everybody who's participated in this. It's been such a great experience. I look forward to the cocktail hours that we're going to have. Definitely that. Yes. So count me in. I'm definitely going to be part of that. And I look forward to doing more of these with you and sharing more ideas, not only here at this event, but also in the magazine. So make sure that you pick up a copy of Green Living Magazine. Make sure you follow us on social media. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who participated in this incredible Earth Day Summit, coming to you from Green Living and Gensler. Thank you.
Happy Earth Day.
Yes, happy Earth Day.